Okay, welcome to the ImAssuming podcast. This is Ija Mohan, and today I have with me Amresh.
Amresh, it is.
Uh, Actually, I remember you as Amresh The Moose Jessy, right? Why the moose? Huh? I mean,
We even did a T-shirt, right?
yeah. I remember.
I had a
I think
moose
that's how we
T-shirt.
met. Isn't that how we met? You did the
Yeah,
T-shirt
I was
first.
looking for to make a custom moose T-shirt. I
Yeah.
found out about you guys, and that was a start of a very beautiful relationship.
Man, this was just, and I'm assuming this is on Twitter lah, or was it on Facebook?
No, I think it was Facebook. I wasn't
Wow.
that much on.
So how did you get the moose as a?
So I mean, when I was younger, I used to game a lot,
Okay.
and you'd always have this weird game handles and whatnot, right?
Ah,
So,
the moose. Okay.
The full gaming handle was Fluffy the Humping Moose. And
Okay, there's
this
a
would
lot
be
to
for Counter-Strike and a whole bunch of stuff, right? So then I realized maybe it's a bit too long, Fluffy the Humping Moose. So it just went down from that to Fluffy, then Fluffy the Moose, and then slowly just Moose stuck. And it's been the Moose all the way. I mean, it's better than having like Amresh Fluffy Jessy or something like that. It'd be weird. So.
I don't know, man. I mean, when it comes to, I think you need to move the mic a little bit closer.
Closer?
Yeah, just get it a little bit closer.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, cool.
Okay. So when it comes to nicknames and handles,
Yeah.
I mean the gaming world has some vicious ones. I've heard. My handle on social media at the early point was Spicy Guy. Was because of
Spicy
my
Guy.
restaurant.
Oh,
I ran a
I'm
restaurant
sure,
called
I'm sure.
Spicy Corner. No, seriously.
There's a play there.
I did not get that right. I ran a restaurant called Spicy Corner, and I thought, okay lah, the social media presence, Spicy Guy lah, relating me to the restaurant. And it's only after a little bit, people started pointing out that there's a little bit of a pervertish innuendo to this lah. And I was like, what do you mean? Like, Spicy Guy. Like, I'm like, what are you talking about? It's the restaurant, Spicy Corner. And then I realized I'm an idiot. And it actually comes across as very, very perverty and your typical...
No, it's more like a stud-like kind of, announcement. Like,
if somebody calls themselves spicy, they're probably not a stud, lah, bro. Okay. So back then when we met, I believe, right? And you were on the score? On this magazine, or you
yes,
just started?
So the score would have been my second job as a writer at the score.
What was your first?
Human.
Oh, you meant before the score?
Yes.
And you met Richard
So, okay.
at Newman?
No. Richard goes, okay, I met Richard the first time. Literally the first time where I saw him
Okay.
was at an FHM party. It
Okay.
was in Sunway Lagoon.
Okay.
I was a college kid. I used to like most healthy, regular college meals.
Yeah.
I used to be a fan of FHM. I used to buy the magazines for its wit and great writing and nothing
Of
more.
course, nobody looks at the photos.
Recipes and drinks, of course. I mean, that's what FHM is all about, and other stuff. So anyway, back then FHM parties they used to have it in like Sunway Lagoon and all this kind of outdoor places.
Yeah.
So not
Okay,
just
just to
clubs.
give a little bit of context, because I've been accused of going into private conversation that people can't relate, right? So in the sense, to give a little bit of context, Richard Augustine was actually on the podcast, so
Yes.
he's not somebody that people don't know. 'Cause if you don't know,
Hey,
this
that
listen to
Richard.
his podcast, right? So
Richard-
we're talking about that Richard. Okay,
Yes.
just to give that context, yeah.
Sure. So that Richard who you interviewed is someone who's been in the media industry for the longest time, right?
Right.
So when I went for this FHM party, I remember he had this T-shirt that said "F fear, drink beer."
Okay.
That famous Stone Cold Steve Austin quote. He's a huge wrestling fan,
Okay,
and he was the editor of FHM. And
Okay.
I remember staring at him like one of those common people queuing up to go in for the party.
okay.
And I saw him walking in, just because he's the editor of VIP, I just walk in there like a baller with his T-shirt. I was like, that's the editor of FHM. Look at his T-shirt. It's
Greatest
so
job
damn
in the
cool,
world.
man. I was like, man, one day, So I saw him, went for the party. And when I started doing my internship
Okay.
and I was looking for a place to intern at, I was actually studying public relations, believe it or not. So
Okay.
at that point, I still had no idea what I wanted to do.
Okay. So PR, forgive my ignorance. So does PR have a big writing component to it?
It does, but it's very confined by what purpose it's supposed to serve and for whom.
Okay. Does it fall under the umbrella of mass comm or?
Yes, it does. So
Okay.
I studied mass comm,
Okay.
my diploma, and
Okay.
that's after like a certain semester you can choose what you want to major in,
Okay.
whether it was PR, advertising, or journalism.
Oh, so journalism also falls under mass comm.
Yes,
That's a pretty broad.
it was, which was the whole appeal of it to me, because after school I had no idea what I wanted to do.
Okay.
Like most people, lost, and I thought, okay, science pertanian. Although I was
So your family didn't pressure you into
no,
any
fortunately
direction?
they did not.
Okay.
The conventional Bai thing would be either engineer
I don't
or
think of you as a
doctor
Bai,
or
by the way.
lawyer.
Thanks for putting that in my head.
Amresh Singh, okay, don't forget that.
I don't know you as the moose, bro. Okay,
But-
I did not know. Amresh Singh Jessy, is it?
Yes.
Oh wow, now I know.
But-
Okay. No,
Okay,
seriously.
but yes,
Seriously.
So, fortunately, I was never pressured to go down that
Okay,
path, the
okay.
holy trinity of careers for Punjabi.
Okay. Okay.
But yeah, my dad is an English teacher.
Okay.
So I think that was part of the reason why he was very open to the idea of me taking something like mass comm.
Okay.
I grew up in a household full of books and reading, and he was an English teacher. So that was something that I felt, hey, okay, I enjoyed writing.
Okay.
Writing. You can study this. Okay, that seems pretty easy.
And you and having a father who's an English teacher or having a parent who's a English teacher, does that mean that dinner table you say the wrong grammatical error, you get corrected?
Yeah.
Or
It did happen. Of course,
Okay.
he would correct me,
Okay.
at times and whatnot. But I would also go to him with questions. I remember reading. Do you remember Singapore True Ghost Stories? Was that book, right?
Dude, that was big, right?
It was huge.
I don't know
So
whether it still is. I'm talking about it as a past tense.
I have no idea.
I know
but-
even those books were like super popular.
Nice, yeah.
Okay.
So I used to read those, but at a young-ish age, I remember asking my dad. I was reading a story, and it was the first time I read the word bikini. And I went to my dad. So every time, usually, any word, I'll
Yeah.
just ask him. This one, you could see his face change a little bit. He was like, I don't know, what are you reading? And the thing, this book is, for older teenagers, and you gotta stop.
So did he give you the definition of a bikini?
Yeah, he just said it was something females wear when they go to the beach.
Yeah, I
Kept
would
it at that
imagine
line.
swimsuit will be a easy discarding of that conversation.
But to address, because there were a lot of English books, like he would just give me this. He would teach English, but of course for maybe like secondary school, or maybe higher grades than I was. But
Okay.
the books would be just there, and
Okay.
I would just attempt to just go and
See, one of the assumptions that I have, right, is I think I speak English reasonably well, right? And I realized that, I'm not a writer, not a journalist, nothing like that. But even when I'm like, doing at work, sending out emails, or when my staff is sending me emails and all that, I realize I'm a bit of a grammar Nazi, right? And I correct them when, if I can. Never over email, as usually in person. Over email, you're just taking it too far, right? But usually if it's presentations and all that, right? So the question I've always asked myself is, why aren't other people just as, OCD as I am, right? And so my assumption is, and I am making an assumption, my assumption is that having your dad kind of reminding you and correcting you, right? Does that now instill that when you in the working world, so do you naturally always kind of like edit yourself or?
it is my job to edit other
No,
people's
yeah, I mean, yeah, but not everybody is built that way, right? My wife's an accountant, so but she has an eye for when her
Yeah.
staff sends her stuff to review, she looks at the grammar and all that. So the question I keep asking myself is, why do some people seem to be grammar Nazis or just very anal about this, and for some they just don't care, it just flies over them? Is it? Do you have any kind of insight into?
I think it basically is, if you read enough, you understand the structure and how certain sentences are supposed to be, and then when something sounds a little bit different, whether you know or not what it is or what it's called,
Okay.
you know there's something wrong, and then you just identify it and change it to what you're more familiar with.
The thing that I'm very guilty of, right, is again, I feel like I have a good command of English and all that. I feel like I can write and speak well. But if you start asking me about stuff like what's an adjective, pronoun, and
I know.
whatever it is, right, I'm like, and I realized that dude, I don't know. I cannot define it. I'm sure if I read it, I might recall. But if you give me a sentence, I'll tell you what's wrong with it,
Yeah,
lah, or how
exactly.
to fix it. But it is,
When you're trying to name that mistake or what,
I have no idea. I have no
like,
idea. And I realized it is so important to know. It's important to know because you kind of realize how the structure of a
yeah,
sentence
you understand
is,
the
right?
rationale behind certain
But then,
rules and
that's when I feel really stupid. No, when I come across this, like you see some like I see a movie, TV show, and then the kid is asking somebody about like adjectives and pronouns, and then they're explaining, it, and I'm like, if my son was to ask me that, I do not have an answer for him, not yet lah. Okay, right? So do you operate the same way, or do you feel that you have come to because of mass comm background and all that you have kind of mastered that English language
I just
from a
say
technical point of view.
no,
So your dad can still get pissed off with you.
for sure. Like, because I'm like you,
Mm.
where I can't necessarily know the right thing of what you're doing wrong, but I can tell you if it's wrong now.
No,
Because I feel you don't need to know those things, the technicality of it, to be a
Right.
good writer.
yeah.
Because you need to first find your voice,
Mm.
and that should be what carries it, your tone and whatnot. So for me, like, I grew up reading a lot of satire and humor and joke books,
Okay. Okay.
and that is now naturally something I incorporate into whatever that I write.
Okay.
Which is part of the appeal of FHM, because honestly, their writing had a lot of wit and humor, and
yeah,
because
yeah.
people from the UK, they're great writers, right? So you're
Yeah.
getting all these British people writing humor, in article form
The
and
dry
whatnot.
wit, the infamous
Yes.
dry wit.
Yes, so you see it presented as maybe on the big screen or whatnot.
Yeah.
I like it being presented in words, and I appreciate the craft of them putting it together and the references when you get it and whatnot. So I enjoyed that about FHM. It felt like the only place where I could write as myself. Growing up, I used to randomly scribble jokes here and there. I was the only child,
Okay.
bored as hell,
Okay.
no computers and all those kind of things, right? So, and growing up with all your Enid Blytons and Hardy Boys and Nancy Drews, and I spent a lot of time in libraries.
Okay.
Not because I was studying or I was smart. No, I just liked reading books, like, just going borrowing and whatnot.
Okay.
And find, even when I moved around a lot,
Okay.
to the point where I even sort of went to a mobile library my first time in my life, which is just a moving van that used to go around
Yeah.
neighborhoods and houses and
I
whatnot, and you
think
could
I
just go
remember.
and pick whatever you books you want, and then
Okay.
when they come back the next week, you return it and whatnot.
Wow.
So you just pick up from all this and slowly started appreciating more satire, and I remember I had those compilation of jokes and all those kind of
No,
things.
I remember forcing my parents to buy this book where it's like 1001 jokes, and now I think about it, it's just so stupid, but I devoured, and I will be angry like, oh, this page, some jokes not funny, right? And then you look for those
And then you would
jokes.
start like telling those jokes, next at family
Trying-
function or
trying
something.
to-
I remember this one joke.
No, actually, you do have a point in the sense that I think if I was trying to reflect on myself, right, a lot of those things that I didn't study but I enjoy reading, like I read a lot of magazines, like especially like when it comes to automotive, anything car related, I
Right.
read a lot of those, right? So I realized that like it is that kind of vocabulary is in my subconscious, right? So now when I speak or when I write, it kind of just flows, and then
Like second nature.
yeah. So if something's off, my point of reference is always all these things that I've read before, and because I used to enjoy reading all this literally stupid jokes and dumb puns, right? I realize even on my day to day with my wife, if you're talking to my wife, she can tell you the amount of times I annoy her on an hourly basis, right? And I realize that sometimes it's this doing the stupid jokes, saying the stupid things that I've read on all these books, it kind of ingrains into your psyche,
Yeah,
so to
yeah.
speak, right? So in that sense, I probably cannot tell you how to, how's the right way to structure a sentence. But if it's wrong, I'll tell you it's wrong.
Which is good enough for you to be an editor these days.
Really? I mean,
Yeah.
I thought editor,
No.
the assumption
I
is
think if
oh,
you're
you
going to be an English teacher, then you better know the whole technicalities of it. If you're an editor these days, this can go back quite a bit, but now, in the first place, not all editors would take the time to point out what you did wrong,
Okay.
why it's wrong, and how you should correct it. But it also boils back down to whether the writer in the first place is interested in knowing that, and then this goes down back a whole deeper stemmed thing of quality content and how it's regulated.
When you say that, are you saying it from a point of view that a writer sometimes feels like, look, I put out content, it's the editor's job to fix it?
Yes, exactly that. And I don't blame them. You know why? Some places have quotas. You need to do X amount of articles, but when it
so
that is your
above quality.
Exactly. So then it loses the thing, because with writing, you should enjoy the process, not just the result. And I don't like it when you take that element of fun and enjoyment of writing away from writers.
Do you think? I agree with you, but do you think that readers can tell the difference when somebody enjoys what they're writing versus?
For sure.
Yeah.
It's.
Do you have examples of, without getting into trouble, do you have examples of, you think, whether it's a publication or anything, where one you think is there's soul in it and one is a little bit soulless?
Very simple, broad example.
Okay.
And since you like cars, for new cars launched, you will get a press release.
Right.
This press release is sent to all publications with hopes of them picking it up, writing about it, with already preset sort of depiction of that car, right? They are presenting it this way. They're hoping that you would pick up on it and present it in the same way.
Yeah. They would prefer you just copy paste the whole thing, right?
If your objective is, I want to be quick, this car just launched, I want to be one of the first to also talk about it and whatnot, you may just resolve it because you want to be timely fashion.
Right.
Press release, churn it out, paraphrase here and there, throw it out. That's that.
Okay.
Now, if someone has a little bit more soul in terms of wanting to write it, perhaps a better way they would do is draw some comparisons with previous models, like if they know the subject, or even if they don't know, take some effort into meeting the right people who could pass you the information about what you need to obtain, or have a different angle. So my biggest irk, I think, is when everyone just jumps on board and does it the same way for the sake of just doing it, rather than actually having something envisioned, like I want to tell it this way for this purpose, and you envision what the readers are going to sort of get out of it.
Yeah, I mean, I know we kind of segued a little bit, but then I find this part very interesting, only because, especially when it comes to writing or creating content, right? If you were to ask me, I feel the most important thing is being authentic, right? I think being authentic, you don't have to have the best grammar, you don't have to have, the best anything, right? But just by being yourself, if it resonates with people, it'll work, right? And one of the examples that I always see, because I'm a car nut, is like I followed Top Gear for the longest time, right? So, which is I don't know, do you know Top Gear? Do you know? Of course, right? Okay, thanks. Right, so it's these three clowns, Jeremy, James, and Richard, right? And they, I would say 30% of what they do is automotive journalism, right? 70% is just them annoying the shit out of each other, right? And it works for them because they kind of created that genre. They were a motoring show which kind of evolved into
lifestyle elements into it.
Just they kind of injected their own idiosyncrasies into it, right? So, but like in Malaysia, I think without a doubt one of the top car publications or car blogs is Paul Tan, right? So even when they came up with their Driven series, and I felt the struggle was they also tried to replicate Top Gear, right? In the sense that they want to create this little friction between the hosts and making fun of each other and all that. And I felt that it didn't feel, it felt like they were trying it. No, I think Malaysians, we are nice people. So if we work together, we very hard for us to flip on each other. I think by default, we are nicer people, right? Whereas, the Brits, they fib on each other a lot. They rip on each other a lot. It's just how they are, right? So trying to replicate that here,
may not just work, right?
I felt like it was very artificial, right? So in the sense that, we see something that works, and then we try
But
to
it works
replicate it.
there with a different audience, which is a target demographic, different culture.
No,
and
actually, it's not. It's not even the audience, right? Because the Top Gear has, I think, it's one of the top rated shows globally,
worldwide,
right?
yeah.
So I think the audience is not just the Brits, but the thing is, the hosts. This is who they are. They're authentic, right? So they're not. They are just idiots who like to do stupid
Yeah,
things.
they're not
Right?
putting up a front or faking it
Yeah,
or anything.
I'm sure it's scripted and all that, but you believe that this is what they
Who they
are,
are,
lah,
that's how
you
they are,
know.
right?
But it doesn't necessarily apply to everyone, right? And even when Top Gear, when these guys went out and started the what do you call it, the Grand Tour, they started their own on
Yeah.
Amazon. I feel it doesn't feel the same because they are trying to replicate. They are also the same guys are trying to replicate what they did with Top Gear, with the Grand Tour, and it's not working because instead of starting something totally new, they're kind of doing like a spin-off, right? So I don't know, man. I mean, I think authenticity is it. I really resonate for people who are truly original. For me, that's like
It should be that way because that's how you stand out, like especially in terms of your writing, which I mentioned, like in terms of how style or in terms of certain what things you incorporate into your writing. When people read certain articles like Anthony Bourdain, when you read his books, you read it in his voice. He is narrating those words. He says things in that way. The kind of references, pop culture references he makes to, like, your Pulp Fictions and the old school movies and all that. That's him. That is his soul, and when he writes it, you read it and you envision it, and that's what I feel is very interesting about writing. You shouldn't try to replicate, like you said, because people enjoy you or your writing most when they're hearing it from you as you just spit it out as you would.
we were talking about this before, and ironically, if I can say ironically, the industry doesn't seem to appreciate authentic content.
Why do you think that's the case?
If I'm making an assumption, which I'm very good at, I feel that most often than not, is we want to replicate success, right? So we are not looking to create a success, right? We are just right now. It feels that we're trying to replicate a success. So if I was talking to Fat Fabes, right, the other day, right? So he was saying that when he and Rina Omar came on TV, that was the first time the not typical host-looking people and talking on TV without an accent, talking like Malaysians, just being themselves, right? So you're saying before them, this kind of show never existed in Malaysia, right? So they were the risk. But now, a lot of people are trying to replicate that. Like, just be Malaysian, be yourself, right?
Yeah.
So in that sense, most of the time, we are just trying to replicate what's been proven to be successful. And if that's the case, more often than not, it's not authentic.
And you are also then chasing something that is already established and has, already... You're chasing, like, it's constantly going to be in the chasing game.
Yeah.
I don't think that, especially when it comes to creatives and whatnot, be it music, movies, film, TV, writing, whatnot, don't be afraid to set the trend. Like, do something different. And if others want to replicate, take that as something that's of a,
No, I mean, I think that is what is most painful for me to hear, even when I talk to people like you and all, right? The fact that our industrial mega media machine does not appreciate, authentic, or does not give authentic content a chance.
Exactly. That is it.
To kind
because
of
when it
start and
succeeds,
try.
they'll be full on, that is, we should have done this a long time ago.
Yeah.
This was a great idea.
Yeah.
But there's no, okay. For me, I'm not a business person at all, which has worked to my disadvantage, obviously.
Okay. Do you think editors need to be business people?
I feel Richard is a great example of how he can balance both the passion and skills of writing, and also managing the business side of it.
Okay.
Still something that I'm definitely working on or having to learn. But it was the biggest issue because I was full on content. I believe in this.
From a content publication point of view, an editor is at the top of the food chain.
It depends. Because depending on how big your editorial team is, you may have multiple layers of editors. For example, a managing editor, a sub-editor, deputy editor.
So if just say at the top is the managing editor, right? So they are also responsible for looking at the commercial side, advertising, cost.
Yes. So for the most part, you would have your sales team, you would have marketing.
Okay.
Okay.
Which all answer to the editor as well.
Yes.
Oh wow.
But no, that depends, right? So it depends on how big of a publishing company it is and whatnot.
Okay.
So who you answer to. For the most part, maybe editors have just a call of what content is put into it. And then depending on how willing they are to put on the black belt and start fighting for maybe like, okay, this client is not suitable for our brand, or this is something that we don't want to do. Because often the dilemma is this, right? Okay, someone wants to come in with money.
Okay.
Are we willing to go down to their terms? Are they coming in on our terms? Where do we draw the line? Where is there a balance of, how do we not bastardize our content at the cost of, say, getting money and so that's constantly the issue here. And if someone can sort of balance it out, like, okay, hey, you come, we understand your needs as a client, what you want, what you want to push, but this is our audience. We know our audience. We know what resonates with them. We know what they are coming to us for. And if we suddenly change this abruptly, it will go noticed. They think that it's okay, just carry on.
No, because
readers should be prioritized, not really.
No, I actually, me being an idiot and not knowing how the industry works, I actually feel actually felt there would have been a separation between the editorial / creative side versus the commercial side.
Yeah, it should be.
It should not be influenced. But you're saying if your organization is not big enough and if the same person is looking at both sides, then I imagine a case where an editor might push back on a story just because it might not serve the commercial needs of the magazine or whatnot lah. Oh, that sucks, man. But that's usually the norm.
Yeah. So
wow.
Because you're asking, sometimes they don't give the time for certain things to massage and ideate and So for example, if you're starting a brand from scratch, and you come in and you want to sort of be the same or do the same thing that 5 other brands who have been doing it for maybe 5 years already prior to you are already doing it. So they've got their fan base, they've got their voice, they know that this is my thing, this is my type of content, this is the format of how my content is presented, and I've nailed it. Like, I've done it long enough, and I did it at a time where there were not enough people doing it. So it's my territory. But that is looked as, that's successful. That is a success case.
Right.
Look at maybe whatever numbers they're bringing in, be it revenue, reach, or whatnot. We should be that. That's the pressure that's put on us. We should replicate that because that is success. There's if you don't give a chance for something else to succeed, and you only look at that's successful, there's the only formula for it to succeed, then they replicate. And then chances are, if you replicate, you're just going to be another one in this game, all struggling to stand out by producing the same type of content or the same type of...
So don't you think that at the beginning at least, like having a market differentiation is super important as opposed to trying to be more like
more effort should be put into like international brands like FHM and all that. Before the brand even starts, there's a brand book, a guidebook, everything about the brand. What is FHM? Who do we represent? Who do we speak to? What voice do we use? What is the purpose? So for FHM, it was simple. We are lads mag, and we're never exclusive. We're always inclusive. That means when guys pick up a copy of FHM, they're looking at things they can afford to buy. They're looking at events they can go to. They're looking at girls next door. It's all this obtainable, achievable things. Compared to, so that's their thing. Then you have the others, Mike. Okay, we want men to aspire to, then you have your high-end mags. Where this is what you should be wearing. This type of events that you should be going to. So that was FHM. But my point is this, that when you have that established, you know what your brand is, what it stands for, who you're reaching out to, the whole works. Without that, you're easily swayed by whatever that comes. This client comes in, we'll do this. This client comes out, we'll do that. Or if you don't have a focus or a niche, and you're competing with so many different people, then it becomes another challenge on its own.
So, like I started watching the show Wokish. No, not Wokish, Woke.
Woke.
So I can't remember his name, and I hate that I can't remember his name, right? But it's the guy from the New Girl. His name is Winston Bishop. In New Girl, I know his character's name,
Right.
but I don't know his actual name. So he's done a new series where it's called Woke, right? It's very timely. But basically the series, I just watched a couple of episodes. The series started off, he's a comic strip illustrator / writer, and it has been picked up for syndication across the US. And then so he's a black dude lah. Okay, so the context of black dude is right before the big launch. The cops misidentify him as a thug or as a robber, and they kind of tackle him to the ground. And suddenly he suddenly had a realization that, holy shit, like, you mean anybody can just be identified as this and all that? Of course, they let him go because he was not the right guy, but the trauma made him, during the launch, he kind of like goes all out and speaks out. He's got a meltdown, right? And it kind of touches on how this whole corporate machinery doesn't really care about who you are as a person, but is the brand that they think they can build around you, right? So even as successful as you are, whoever, even if you see like Lewis Hamilton, right? Easily one of the best Formula One drivers of all time, right? Everything he does is go support. But the minute he starts, this is Black Lives Matter, he starts making a lot of statements and all that. Suddenly there seems to be a pushback on what he can say, FIA, Spit Parade and all that. I mean, I think his team is supportive. The teams have got his back.
Yeah.
But I don't think the whole F1 machinery was supportive of, hey, you're rocking the boat a bit too much, right? So, suddenly it's no longer about what Lewis Hamilton believes. It's what is the Lewis Hamilton brand, right? And I don't know, man. For me, it feels like, sometimes corporate kills the brand, right? I mean, killing the brand and killing the person. I don't know whether it relates to publishing, but I feel like, even brands like FHM kind of has its soul, right? And if you let corporate get away with it, they can, And how do you, you have now been, let's count the amount of publications that you have kind of headed, right? So you started out with Newman.
Started off with Newman, yes.
That one was with Richard. No, that was...
yeah. So last time,
Okay.
you know MediaCorp is in Singapore?
Yeah.
So MediaCorp Singapore had an office here
Okay.
in near MCorp Mall. So Yayasan Selangor, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
And I did my internship there.
Okay.
So I was the I did my internship in FHM. In college, I was like, yeah, where do you intern? FHM. But that was where I met Richard lah.
Okay.
And he was the editor at that time. And unfortunately, although I wanted to really intern under FHM, when I joined, they gave me the typical internship task of cleaning storerooms and photocopying and filling Excel sheets and whatnot. But because I got to clean the storeroom, that's where they kept all their international issues.
So they have a repository of every issue.
Yeah, because back then, you would get from India, Australia, Singapore, wherever, Russia, Holland, Germany.
It gets sent to everyone.
Taiwan, Japan, sent.
Whoa.
And we had a storeroom full of it.
Okay.
And I was this little intern tasked to go and... so this little intern would walk in with a bag.
Every page as you.
With a huge bag, an empty bag, and leave with a very heavy, huge bag.
Okay.
But that was where I met Richard. He was there.
Okay, just a quick question there, right? So of all those different FHM editions from all those different... Which was the most different, or were they all very consistent?
No,
I feel like...
Very different. Like, Taiwan was very fashiony.
Okay.
They had a lot of shoots and it was thick. Thailand, Philippines, thick as well.
Okay.
Singapore is very Malaysian-like.
Okay.
UK had the best content, like content, articles and features, and that was very nice.
How about Japan? How would
Didn't understand shit.
I had this weird thing that, Japan, there must be some weird stuff there, man.
Japan is like, just weird on its own with or without FHM. I think FHM would have probably got banned for several reasons, like tentacles on the cover or something. I'm not sure.
So that was FHM?
Yeah. So I was an intern.
Right.
Met Richard, Because fanboy am I, right? I saw him with his F beer, all that. I mean, F here, drink beer. I had to go and talk to this legend. So I went and spoke to him. But he was leaving at that point.
Okay.
He was leaving to Newman.
Okay.
And after a while, after I graduated...
Newman is something new that he set up, or it was an existing brand?
Newman was... He didn't set it up. I think he was there, but like after a while, it was launched. And I graduated. I got in touch with him, hoping that we were still with FHM, saying, "Hey, fresh grad here, ready for action. You remember me and all that?" I was cleaning the storeroom. Remember that guy? And he said, "Oh, I'm with Newman now." I was like, "Ah, crap, what's Newman?" Did some research. So it was Malaysia's version of FHM, or what?
Okay.
That was the idea.
Okay.
And Richard was there.
Okay.
So I said, "Okay, looking for a job." Met him in the kopitiam right beside the office. And 15 minutes we were talking. He said, "Okay, good. Come on, you join." So I joined as a junior writer.
Okay. And how big was the team at that point?
It was nice. That was my first exposure into like a proper editorial team.
Okay.
So there was an art director.
Wow. Okay.
So Richard was so good at photo shoots.
Okay.
He did some massive photo shoots for like brands like Nike and a few other things.
Okay. So this one, Newman was under MediaCorp?
No.
This
FHM was under
MediaCorp. Okay.
Yeah.
Newman
This was called Innovative Media.
Okay.
They had magazines like Caliber, Golf.
Okay. Okay.
A few other titles.
All right.
A few home magazines. And
so do you think art director?
Art director, deputy editor, several writers.
Oh wow. Okay. Was
designer.
it shared with other publications under the
No.
group? It was exclusively for Newman.
So that was great.
Wow.
Like a full-fledged team when those still existed.
Yeah.
So I learned a great deal from Richard at Newman, from all the different people, photo shoots, how it all works and whatnot. And I had a to-do list.
Okay.
Now I joined just for Newman.
Okay.
Junior writer coming in, first job, I guess you get manhandled a little bit. So I was requested to also write for Golf and Caliber.
Okay.
One is a high-end lifestyle magazine, Caliber, and Golf is Golf, obviously.
Okay.
I had no idea. I don't know
When you
Golf.
say high-end lifestyle magazine, you're talking about like the equivalent of what? Tatler or...
This would be a budget Tatler.
Okay, got it. Okay.
Because it was thin, it was staple bound. It was something that came along with credit card subscription, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
You get this credit card, every month you get this copy of Caliber.
Okay.
I'm not even sure whether it's still going on.
Okay.
So suddenly I was writing about golf, I was writing about few like lifestyle events, restaurant reviews, which is fine because it's my first job and I really just wanted to absorb it all and understand just how diverse the whole job scope was. But Newman was where what I really wanted. It was photo shoots, food reviews, writing really quirky articles about movies, lifestyle. I could incorporate my style of writing into Newman because of Richard.
Okay.
He had that same style of writing with the FHM background and whatnot.
Okay.
Funny ass, good writings, features and whatnot. So I enjoyed it. I would used to read that stuff. I learned a lot from the deputy editor. He was the kind who would highlight the shit out of you. Print it out, he'll highlight this is wrong, this is why. He would, and that's all these things, little that I know, would at a later point build into how I would manage my own team.
Yeah.
This was my first exposure as a junior writer. So my to-do list, this article, interview this, blah, 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 it always end with kill self. Because it was so taxing.
Right.
I had all sorts of coping mechanisms.
Drinking? No. Not so
No
much.
lah.
Okay.
Despite me being a bayi, I was a
Sorry, I
moderate
went for
drinker. Straight line.
the usual stereotype.
No, but that is true. Like, if you look at the journalist pyramid, right? There's caffeine, alcohol, pizza, tobacco, and nicotine, which makes sense.
Okay. So what was your coping mechanisms and what did you...
Oh, no. I mean, I enjoyed it though. The reason that I could just keep pushing at that measly 1,500 salary, taking the bus, taking the train, going to the office, no car, all those mumbo jumbo. But I enjoyed it once I got to the office and I got to my assignments, meeting people, learning about photo shoots, dealing with stylists, photographers, conceptualizing shoots.
Right.
It was a lot of fun. Stuff that I never really got to experience as an intern.
Okay.
But going back, right, there was one point of my internship that sort of also dictated the path that I would,
Mm.
because sure, Richard was there. You remember this magazine called Lime?
Why do it sounds familiar? But
So okay, Galaxy,
yes,
all right?
yes, yes. I feel it's
That
similar.
kind of,
Yeah,
you know.
okay. Yeah.
So Lime was a lifestyle, very collegey kind of thing. You know,
Okay,
you
yeah,
interview
sure.
people in the streets, you know,
Mm.
about the kids, what's happening,
Right.
new malls, new shops, whatever, that kind of weird stuff.
Mm.
There was an editor for Lime. Her name was Angelina George.
Okay, I thought you said Jolie. Yes. Sorry.
So
Okay, Angelina George.
the,
Yeah.
the late Angelina George.
Okay.
So she was someone who you just would not want to F around with. One day,
Okay.
as I was doing my casual stealing of FHM magazines and whatnot, and innocently, she calls me, "Hey, you're the intern, right? Come
Lime
here."
is under the same group as well.
It was under MediaCorp.
Okay.
So I go to her. I said, "Yes,"
Mm.
and she says, "I need your help to go and write about something.
Mm.
There's this new shop, blah blah blah, open, whatever. Do it."
Mm.
I said, "Sure." You know, I joined here to write, not to
Yeah.
clean storerooms.
Yeah.
I'll take it, even if it's not under FHM, fine.
Okay.
I did it. Then I think she sort of either realized the passion or maybe saw something in me,
Okay.
and she started giving more tasks. So this was still my 2-3 months internship.
Okay.
I said, then that was the last of my Excel sheets and whatnot.
Okay.
She got me to work and write for Lime.
Mm.
So technically, while I was still interning,
Mm.
as I left, she said, "You should. What are you going to do after this?" She asked me.
Mm.
I had no idea.
Okay.
I was still doing my PR
Okay.
diploma. Had no idea what I wanted to do for my degree. She said, "You should take up journalism."
Mm.
If she hadn't told me that, if she hadn't believed in me
Mm.
or saw something in me, I don't think I would have. Because from that point onwards, even after my internship, I was writing for Lime, freelance
Okay.
basis. That was my
Okay.
first freelance job.
Mm.
As I was writing, as I was still studying in college.
Mm.
Just kind of fun, because if you're doing mass comm, you have a lot of events and stuff you got to organize, and you're rated
Right.
based on few things. If you have media coverage, plus points, man, like college event, getting some media
If
coverage.
you manage to get some articles out there and all
So
that.
I was
Wow.
the inner, the inside man, like, in college, when every flirts, like, they're doing events, all okay, Lime magazine is where it's going to appear.
Okay.
So it's fun though, because then I started picking up stories, learning how to find stories,
Mm.
and I started suggesting to her, "Hey, I want to do," because that time I was a college student, so and we were writing for a magazine that was catering to college students.
Okay.
It made sense to assume that things that I was interested in, foosball back then was big, pool, a whole bunch of different things. There's some things that I could dig a little bit more and write about.
Okay.
Cosplaying was a huge thing.
Yes,
Then
sir.
there was a shop in the Curve. Man, they had board games. They sold interesting, like, figurines, life-size stars. They used to have events.
Okay.
When a movie would launch, they would just get all these people to come dressed up in cosplays and whatnot.
Wow.
So I covered that community. There's this board game community. So it was
okay,
very
yeah.
interesting, meeting all these different societies and different cliques and different people with different passions and whatnot, and writing about it. And so that was my first. I started writing continuously.
And you're getting paid to do these articles.
Yeah, here and there, like,
Dude.
$50 one article. But college,
Hey,
okay,
$50,
lah.
bro. Come
Bro,
on. Back
that's
then,
a
that's a lot of money.
Friday,
Yeah.
3 for 10. You're sorted, bro.
Oh God. Okay. Okay. So, you mentioned that she kind of nudged you towards journalism, right?
Yeah, she believed. I think she gave me a chance.
Okay. So,
And-
but this was already when you're doing your PR. You're already doing the.
Yeah, but I wasn't enjoying PR at all.
Okay, but you
I-
graduated with that. as
Yes, and I did give it a try.
Okay.
So at a later intern, I did try to intern at a PR firm.
Okay.
I couldn't. It's writing, yes,
Mm.
but I think the lack of freedom is what I couldn't really
Because
relate to.
you're a slave to the brand, like, or whatever
Yes,
your customer
and
is, right?
I believe, no offense to the PR industry or people from PR, but I believe that you cannot spell pretentious without PR.
Maybe it's designed like that,
Yeah.
right? I mean, yeah, and I don't think they'll hear you wrongly, you know. But,
So it just, I wanted to write what I wanted to write about. I always had this itch or this hunger to find out things and write about a story that no one knew about. And there was this inquisitive nature that I guess was instilled.
So did you keep in touch with Angeline? I mean, after.
No, she passed away a long time ago.
Okay.
Mm.
Okay.
A few years after I was doing my internship,
Wow.
she had a heart attack and,
Okay.
and she passed on. So, but after that, that was what essentially led me to Newman.
Okay.
You know, I took my degree in journalism, got in touch with Richard, who I met during my internship, my idola of the editorial world.
You know, he
And
never mentioned to me he was FHM editor.
oh
So,
yeah,
yeah. I mean, I also didn't ask the question.
Okay.
That's interesting. Okay, having said that, right? You know, it also sounds like this is something that you really wanted to do, right? In the
still
sense
want
that,
to do.
Yeah. So in the sense that, you know, when you even as an intern, you know, you knew that's the kind of world you wanted to be in, right?
At that point, I really had no idea what the world was.
Okay.
I wasn't fully exposed to the Malaysian editorial world,
Okay.
or I just knew a select number of magazines and books that I enjoyed.
Okay.
I started working for those.
Okay. But do you think it's not fair to say every. Do you think most people in that world of publication, editorial, and all that, right? Are they there because they want to be there, or are they there because it's a job?
It's really hard for me to assume,
Okay.
but I would hope
Mhm.
for something like this, you should be there for the passion. It's not a job that's lucrative in the sense where you're going to earn a lot of money. And now, especially, I feel when most of the writing is just done behind a screen with internet connection, keyboard, and a mouse, it's not really storytelling or story gathering anymore. You're not but enjoying the thrill, like I said, the process of putting a story together. You
Right.
just want the result.
outcome. Okay. Okay. Interesting. So that kind of led you from Newman. So Newman, that was the score.
So
The score
Newman,
was
Newman was about a year and a half.
Okay.
And then Richard was going to leave. I was like, oh shit, why? And then, I understood, like I said, maybe it's difficult. Like I mentioned earlier when we were speaking, that there are challenges when you want to sort of fight for content.
right. Right.
That whole age-old battle of, and Richard left.
Okay.
Along with him, a lot of the team were leaving as well. And it made sense because Richard really glued the team together.
Okay. So he
Everyone-
knew he was going to do something else.
Yeah.
I mean, for everybody to leave with him there.
No.
I would imagine there's a hope of a paycheck at the end of the month.
Like some of them just left AWOL. Like they just disappeared.
Really? Yeah.
And so, but the good thing was when Richard was going, so he was going to this place called Hot Potato Publishing.
Okay.
They had magazines like Hello,
Okay.
Hot. You remember Hot? That
Yes.
gossip,
Yeah.
celebrity.
Dude, my memory is working overtime, but I kind of.
So it was a very small publishing house
Okay.
with predominantly celebrity tabloid mags.
Okay.
I think that Motor Trader was also under them.
Okay. Okay.
And then Richard was hired.
Mm.
And because of his past, with
Actually, somehow
men's-
you're telling more of a Richard story than Richard
because
did.
he's been a huge part of the
yeah,
whole journey.
I'm just seeing
All the way, yeah.
yeah. Okay. Okay.
Because of his background in men's magazine and all that, they got
Right.
him to start a men's magazine as well.
Wow.
A
Okay.
full-fledged local one. But it was different. Most of your men's magazines were, thick and whatnot. This was a
Right.
staple bound,
Right. Yeah. I
Obviously,
remember the
you
score.
know.
Yeah, I remember the score. Yeah.
and that was the score.
Yeah.
So he said, would you like to be a part of starting this up?
Okay.
I think I was 22, something like that. And I thought it'll be very interesting to learn, how a magazine gets built from scratch.
Right.
From the conceptualizing to the segmentizing and how you're going to get at. It was something I never knew, never learned. And learning it from Richard. Why the hell not? Obviously. And I was
Yeah.
honored that he sort of entrusted me to be part of that
this.
journey. And that's when I joined him at the score.
Man. And then you score, and then after the score, you moved on to FHM? No.
Yes, so I was with the score for about a year and a half. Richard once again left me. And at this point,
I see a
I
pattern,
was
yeah.
questioning whether it was how I smelled, but he just seemed to keep running away from me, and I would just follow. But Then I took over as editor of Score.
Okay.
Then I realized why he ran away. Because Richard always shielded us from all the bullshit and drama. That he just said, "You all do your thing, right?
Yeah.
Don't have to worry about the management madness." But
Right.
when I came to a point where I had to be involved in those things, then it hit me. It was a huge learning curve, of course. And I would consult him.
Okay.
How this, that, like, what the hell this went down? Like, why you left me with this shit? Like, damn you. Just ciao. But it was interesting. I was more hands-on with the designers, the sales team, and hiring and grooming writers.
Wow. You were still quite young, right? I mean,
yeah.
Is that the
this
norm?
was maybe?
I mean, is that norm for that to be like young editors?
No, I was shit scared, man.
Okay.
I always question myself, like whether I am able to do. I want to. I know that, but I always overthink things.
Do you think it is? So here's a funny thing, right? Like, do you think it is something that people? It is something that you will start feeling for yourself, or is it something that people would have to tell you externally, in the sense of you having the knowing that you are, you know what you're doing, and to kind of trust what you're doing?
For me, so you're asking how we know whether what we're doing is.
Yeah, I mean, maybe it is. It is not such an editorial question.
Okay, yeah.
I mean, not from that world, but I'm just saying in general, right? At what point do you consider yourself a professional or pro, lah? At what point are you an expert? At what point do we feel like we are subject matter experts? And like, even for me personally, when I've been in merchandising for more than 10 years, right? And along the time, I always feel like I'm still learning. I'm still studying. I'm still learning. I'm still learning. But then when I realize, when I speak to somebody on the outside, and then they refer to my experience and they kind of rely on me to advise them, and then I realize that, oh, okay, so they kind of see me as a kind of subject matter expert on these things, and I realize that until somebody external kind of refers to you, you don't really kind of see it as such, lah.
Perhaps, yeah. Maybe being an expert matter, I think if you're being judged or by the people within that same industry and they acknowledge you as an expert, then but people from outside are always gonna look at you as an expert simply because you've been doing it for the longest time, and with that
that's very
time frame, you have acquired a lot of knowledge and things that because simply they weren't exposed to it.
So how does that? So you will so you will kind of need your industry to kind of.
I feel so. Like, if someone who's been an OG journalist for the longest time even acknowledges something that you've done, written, whether it's one article or an initiative or something like that, then to me, then I wouldn't say you're an expert, but that is the kind of, what you can feed off and sort of gauge, I'm in the right path, I'm doing the right thing. And maybe that'll be a nice motivation as well to just keep going. But like you said, it's a constant learning thing. And I don't believe there'll ever be a time where I can fully confidently say I'm an expert in this. No, I'm learning, but I'm really enjoying the process.
Yeah,
and
I mean, it's I'm not trying to feed the ego in any way, right? But I think, even when you think about our daily lives, right, we always think, like now with the COVID and Corona and all that, our health minister, Dr. Isham, he's the expert when it comes to this. Right? So you go through life assigning, these people are good at what they do, these people are good at what they do, right? So I think in an existential kind of crisis kind of way, when do you realize that you are the person that's best at whatever it is that you do, and at what point do you accept it and kind of embrace it, lah? I mean, this is we're getting way off topic, so to speak, right? But when you mentioned that, I was just thinking to myself, like, at what point do any of us, if somebody's been in just say in IT networking all their life, at what point do they consider themselves a subject matter expert, or do they ever, or do they feel they're just an employee all their life or whatever? Right?
For me, the quest has never been like to be an expert. Like, I think everyone's got their own different sets of goals or what they are working towards or what's that final end game, right? Like, for me, if I were to eventually have the balls to publish a book
Okay.
Even one. To me, that is
that on the cards? Is that on the cards for you?
it's been on the cards for the longest time. I just
Okay. Fiction, autobiography.
no, I think it would not be fiction. Fiction writing isn't my thing.
Okay. Okay.
I'm more of a experiential and observation kind of thing, and of course with satire, hopefully.
Life of Moose. Is that what are we going for the title?
I would say I've had enough of a colorful past
Okay.
to incorporate some of my life experiences into what I want to write. End of the day, I'm not writing for anyone else.
Yeah. Yeah.
It is for me. And there are stories that I want to sort of document and put together because I moved around a lot growing up. Stayed in Seychelles for 2 years. I was, all around. So with that, you meet a whole bunch of different
Stayed
people.
in Seychelles for 2 years?
Yes.
When did that happen?
So I didn't do my UPSR.
Okay.
At standard 5.
Okay.
That means I was 11.
Okay.
My dad and I moved to Seychelles. And we stayed there for 2 years. This was 99, 2000.
Why? How? Why? I mean, what
So
led?
my
what
dad,
kinda-
like I mentioned, is an English teacher.
Okay.
But I don't know how he managed to score all these weird ass school jobs. And
Okay.
he started teaching in a government school in Seychelles.
Okay.
And I moved along with him.
Wow.
Mm.
Just like that.
Just like that.
Dude, I've been to Seychelles, man. I mean,
Which part? Mahi.
okay. That's the main one, right?
Yes.
Mahi is the main one. And what's the other one that people fly to or take a boat to?
There's Prale, there's Silhouette, there's
I don't know. I could be Mahi or Prale. I'm not sure. The one that you fly, the
There's
one that you
Ladik.
fly to, the major.
the fly to is Mahi.
Actually, it was a very weird one. Was not planned at all. I only knew I was going to Seychelles 2 days before I flew to Seychelles, and one of my buddies, one of my closest friends, who is a pilot in the Middle East, was getting married, and it was just very impromptu. They were like eloping, and then so he was doing it in Seychelles. So he just let me know, and I was like, okay, so you're just you two are gonna get and like have like a honeymoon kind of thing by yourself. It's like, yeah, and like, no, who's gonna be a witness, right? I was like, who's gonna be a witness and all that? They're like, oh, he'll just pay the taxi driver to be his witness. And I was like, what? And I couldn't like, what? Taxi driver? I was like, no way. And this guy is a pilot lah, so you
Right.
could get cheap tickets, right? So we were on standby tickets. I said, "Okay, I'll call you back in a half an hour." I call up my wife, she's at work, and we go like, listen up, he's getting married, and I can't imagine him getting married alone. It's like
With the
panic lah,
taxi
like,
driver.
yeah, because he said later they do a ceremony with family all, but I was like, I can't imagine him doing it alone. I was like, do you want to go to Seychelles, right? And she's like, yeah, why not? So we were on standby tickets. We just flew out the next day. We met him over there, and we all four of us flew to Seychelles. We were there like for 5 days.
Lovely place, right?
Dude, I love the place, man. It's super expensive,
It
super
is.
duper
Because
expensive.
everything is imported.
It is insanely expensive, but I love the Takamaka rum. I mean, dude,
I was too young to try
Okay,
all
okay,
that.
okay.
Takamaka.
I was like
I saw
buying
beers
bottles
a
of
lot.
this stuff.
They have this local brew called Say Brew.
Ah, yeah,
Might have snuck a few.
but it's so beautiful. I think one of the best beaches. I know the lagoons, dude. Like you're walking, it's just like maybe knee deep water.
crystal
You could see
clear.
like stingrays in the water, and I was just like, I don't want to get killed, but everybody's just cool with it, right? The water is perfect, so clean.
It is-
Oh man,
It was
paradise.
It is literally the most gorgeous place I've been to, and I really did not want to come back.
Mhm.
But there was some family stuff that we
Okay.
but the 2 years there, man, super memorable.
And there's a huge Indian community in Seychelles,
Yeah.
right? Like almost every other shop is
Yeah.
Kumar's
so
place or
the Chinese and the Indians have most of the grocery stores and some
I
shops
didn't
and
ever spotted any Chinese
Oh,
grocery stores. Got a lot, huh?
Mm.
Ah,
So it was colonized by the French.
mm.
They speak Creole.
Yeah, Creole, yeah.
So I picked up French, picked up Creole there. I went to
Really,
the government school, which was great because you're exposed
Mm.
like you're mixing around with the flares. You have to pick up the language and learn their ways and whatnot.
Nice, man.
So much fun.
I love the place. I really love the place. And when I first went there, I was a bit, I don't know what it was. I just thought it was like a island holiday destination kind of deal. And then at the car rental at the airport, I was like, we want to rent a car. And then this lady was just making small talk with me. Oh, yeah, you're here for business or pleasure. And then I looked at her. No, who the fuck comes to Seychelles for business? I'm here for pleasure. And then she looks at me like, you fucking idiot. Most people come here for business. And I'm like, what are you talking about? And she's like, all the major banks like Barclays and all,
Yeah, Barclay.
they all have offshore offices all over the place there. And they say people come here for like work, as in for financial reasons, hint, hint, whatever. So the idiots who come there for a holiday is actually the minority. And I felt so stupid. I was like, and I think that reflects on the cost of living of the place, because everything, if it was just an island destination for a holiday, it wouldn't be that expensive. But they have some top restaurants there. Everything's in euros. It's not even in dollars, right? Everything is in euros and all that. Man, but a beautiful place. I mean, I really liked it. So 2 years there, lucky bugger, man.
Yeah, so the whole Y2K millennium thing was celebrated there.
Wow.
Gorgeous lah. Every day you're walking past the beach, you're seeing people playing checkers under coconut trees. Super chill vibe.
Yeah, I always saw people getting drunk, like always, like forever getting drunk. Like I saw, like there was one, like we were driving past, there was like one wedding procession happening, like in this big house, and then like literally, like some men were just drunk and like falling down on the garden outside. It's like,
so you saw that too, bloody hell. Because it's true. I would be on an innocent day getting groceries with my dad, taking the bus home, and you'd see a drunk guy chasing another guy with a machete. Just another day in Seychelles.
Yeah,
they keep giant tortoises as pets. Now we're talking.
Wow.
Yeah, we're talking giant. Those that live up for like forever.
Years.
You can sit on top of them, kind of thing, on the shell, and they'll be moving around and on. Yeah. They keep that as pets. I found out the hard way. Came back from school one day.
Okay.
And I heard this weird sound from the jungle.
Okay.
I'm like, what the shit is that in the jungle right now? But being a curious kid who had more balls than I do now, I just walked into the source of the sound and I saw two giant tortoises mating. It's quite traumatizing for an 11-year-old kid.
With it. No, actually, now that you mention it, one of the restaurants had like a
pet.
Like I suppose it's a pet, because it was like a big enclosure, and they had like this huge tortoises there, and then we went and saw.
Black parrots is what they keep for pets.
Black
parrots.
Yeah. Okay. What's up with black parrots?
Basically, you have your colorful parrots. These are just more depressing, emo, goth-like versions of these birds that they keep as pets.
It's amazing. I think one of the things I found interesting is, I mean, and it's a very stereotypical thing to say, but I found that it kind of challenged my stereotypes. Like, generally we are always sold this idea of Africa, of being poor, struggling, blah blah, right? And then when I was in Seychelles, most of the wealthy people I was seeing were Africans. Like, most of the people were eating at the expensive restaurants, staying at the hotels and all that. I didn't see too many Europeans. I mean, yeah, there were Europeans, but most of them there seem to be.
But I think when you say Africans, you mean the locals themselves.
I don't know,
because
tourists. I don't know whether they are.
It should be because generally the locals there look like Africans.
Yeah. Technically Africa, right? I mean,
yes,
right. So so we seeing that this whole stigma of seeing Africans as always.
Yeah.
Fighting poverty kind of deal, right? This is a whole thing that we are sold at. And then to go there and see that, the money, the wealth, being spent there, and realize that, man, we need to travel more. We need to get out more, see more, understand more. Because, the average Malaysian's stereotype of Africans is so bad. I mean, we are especially, I think, very bad. Right? But it's just not true. I was lucky enough to go to a college where some of my friends were Africans. Of course, these guys were like ambassador kids and all that. So I was like, whoa, shit, this guy's a big deal, right? So I don't have that stereotype of, but man, going there kind of, woohoo, I can move there. I can imagine moving there. I remember nasi goreng costs like 30 euros.
Oh, no.
Yeah, but no, it was literally like we don't have those in Malaysia anymore. Those roadside stalls, right? Literally, those roadside stalls going to fall off the cliff kind of deal. Nasi goreng, fried rice, 25 euros. So, yeah, when I say expensive, I was like, every time I ate, I was like, man, it's like going to the Hilton, right? Every roadside meal. But yeah, interesting. So 2 years there. So you were saying you never did UPSR?
I know. So when I came back, my BM was so bad.
So when you came back, how do you just went back to college, or?
No, I came back when I was 14, so Form 2 in Penang.
Oh,
So from 5, I was in Penang, and then that's when I came
you're
to
a
KL.
Penang boy.
Penang boy, yeah. But
Wow.
I born in Penang,
Okay.
but I wouldn't state that probably lived here in KL more than I have in Penang.
Richard also Penang boy, right?
Yes.
There's many similarities. Like I see these parallels. Okay. Wow. Okay. So okay, I know there's a massive Seychelles segue. Shout out
We just
to
took a detour to Seychelles.
no, but I remember right. And why I say it's expensive is it is known that it's expensive. So much so that we were swimming in the pool, and then the hotel, one of the guys came up to us from the hotel, and he's like, "Hey, would you guys want a seafood dinner? We just caught some fresh catch and all that." And we were like, "Yeah, sounds good. Is it going to cost us extra?" Yeah, dinner will be separate. And it's like, "Oh, how much is it for like 4 people?" "Oh, it's just 700 euros, right?" And the guy who's talking to us is an Indian dude, right? So, and I look at him like, "Dude, that's a lot of money." And then he looks at me, so I go like, "Welcome to Seychelles." And I got welcome to Seychelles at so many points, right? Where it's like, dude, this is expensive. So welcome to Seychelles. I will definitely want to go back there. Whatever I said, I definitely want to go back there.
Gorgeous place.
And okay, so coming back to
Mm-hmm.
given all your travels, so to speak, right? Are you working on the book? Or
There were several attempts.
okay,
It's being worked on in parts.
okay,
As I recall an interesting chapter,
okay.
I would just work on that, and then
So do you have like clippings or writings of stuff that do you have it saved, or it's just like in your mind right now?
No, I do have it written a little bit,
Okay.
and but more than that, I do have a lot of random books and notebooks, which is random phrases and quotes and words and stuff that
I keep all my diaries for the last 10 years, and I flip through them, right? If I ever become a millionaire or a billionaire,
Mhm.
you can use this as a manual. But it is just my diaries are just my to-do list.
Right.
Every day, what I want to tackle. It's just a to-do list, right? So, and I'm like looking at it like, why the fuck am I keeping this shit? It's going to serve no purpose, but I can't bring myself to even throw
Part of
them
history,
away.
your history.
So
Look
yeah.
back, like, oh shit, I did that.
But one of these people that I know, it's call him an advisor lah. One thing he said was telling me that to kind of appreciate your life, one of the exercises he asked me to do is look back at your life as long as you can remember, right? So if I'm 35 going on 36, am I 36? I don't know, 36 I guess. So if I'm 36 years old, right, as far as I can remember, maybe 30 years, right, and kind of try and document your life in terms of any type of milestones, good and bad, right? And he was telling me that most probably you will have to talk to your family, whoever's around, especially your parents for the early days and all that, and year by year try and get a feel of your milestones on each of those years, right? Whether it's graduating or I started wearing my glasses, or I started playing football or a musical instrument, whatever it is, right? And then his advice was, once you kind of paint a picture for yourself for the last 30 years or whatnot, his observation was you'll start seeing a rhythm to your life, right? When things are working out, going well, and maybe when things you don't feel so good, and you're looking at it from a macro point of view. That means you're not seeing day by day, you're seeing almost year by year, right? So he's saying you'll start to see patterns, right? And more than that, you'll start to kind of have a better appreciation of your life. Because right now we always feel, most of the time we feel for what we feel like today, right? And we don't seem to have an appreciation for the life that we have kind of lived, right? And so I kind of tried it. I didn't do it very well. I kind of tried that exercise. And then I realized that there's a lot of gaps that I don't even remember, right? Hey, I don't remember what happened this year and that year. Like, how can you forget a whole year, like no milestones? I started talking to people, looking at my Facebook for more recent. Hey, what are the posts on these years and all that? And it really gives you a better perspective. And then he was saying, and why I bring that up was his perspective was, you're saying that, imagine you're going to write a book about yourself, right? And what would you need? What would be the chapters of your life, right? So this was not publishing advice. This was just kind of reflect on your life kind of advice, right? So in that sense, I think everybody should do it. you know, at least to appreciate your own life wherever we, because sometimes we tend to think that only successful people or perceived to be successful people
How worthy of
are having
telling their
interesting lives.
stories.
Yeah, and to a large extent, the reason why I'm doing this podcast as well is that, you know, when I talk to people, I realize that most of the people I talk to are pretty fucking interesting, right? And they're not necessarily celebrities or billionaires and all that, but we all have very interesting stories to share. I mean, if, you know, sometimes when my gardener is cutting the grass, this guy's from Bangladesh, I just got there and talked to him for a while. He's got stories to tell. And I'm like, whoa, like, no, I did not know that's how the world operates on that side of the world, right? So in the sense that this idea that you must be someone worthy before you can share your story, that kind of broke it for me. So in the sense that, you know, we all have very interesting stories.
And it would be nice to have more platforms telling these stories.
Oh yeah, man. I mean, but we do, right? I mean, the sense that technically anybody can go onto YouTube and whatnot.
As in, we're talking about like media publications and all those kind of stuff.
Whether it gets wind and whether it grows. But okay, that kind of brings us to, you know, you were saying what you're doing now is not so related to media.
Yeah, I would say after.
Let's call it a hiatus from.
No, it's not a hiatus because I'm still doing what I want to do, but by the side. It's just not a full-time job anymore.
Okay. And so it's a funny thing because even when I was talking to Richard as well, he also seems to seems to also be saying that he's uncoupling himself from this idea of being a media publishing person. Of course, he's now like he says he's a content for hire kind of deal.
Content slut lah.
Yeah, I think you would prefer to say that. But my curiosity is actually, is there a reason why people like you know, you and Richard are moving out of this space?
Because it's just too difficult to fight the fight constantly.
And if I were to ask you the question, if I were to play the devil's advocate and if I was on the big bad corporate side, right?
Yep.
What interest does it serve me to have creative people like, you know, you, Richard, and probably many others leave the industry? How does it serve me, right? It hurts me more than it serves me, right?
I don't think they even care.
Oh, okay. Really? I mean,
it doesn't. I really don't see them thinking like, "Oh man, we lost a good one." Oh, no, none of that shit. It's move on to the next disposable.
But they are monetizing creativity and content, which they don't produce.
They are not monetizing creativity.
Okay.
Their content is based off monetization. There's a difference.
No, you gotta educate me on this. You gotta educate me on that. Okay, help me understand that.
So my point, this boils down to like when I said how certain brands should have their DNAs and guidelines and brand rules set, right?
Okay.
The do's and don'ts.
Okay.
The clear borders that should not be crossed. When there are none of those, or when they are ignored or overlooked,
okay,
then there's a risk of bastardizing the content for the purpose of reach or money, revenue solely, right?
Okay.
Then it becomes hard. You see, when you want to create brand loyalty and all those kind of things, let's look at Vice. Vice started very rock and roll. Sex, drugs, rock and roll, taboo stories, stories that were not being told. Okay. There was a void for these stories because big corporations find it too racy, too sensitive to be told. If they couldn't do it under a corporation, they do it on their own. That was their own thing. A bunch of people got together, journalists who wanted to tell stories, but these stories were just not acceptable or were not permitted to be told on a majority of platforms. What do? We tell it ourselves. We tell it the way we want to on our platform.
Okay.
Reach started coming in. These are interesting stories.
Right.
You don't have to boost. That time we go buy reach and all that kind of stuff. It's pure organic reach. And everyone wanted to be a part of them because through their content, which people really liked reading or enjoyed, through these stories that were not being told enough, came the reach. Through this reach comes money. Just give it time.
Okay.
If you go in, we launched 1 month, why are our numbers not same as this, that, or whatever, who've been around for 5 years? What kind of logical comparison is that?
Yeah.
Why don't you make a comparison when they were first born, first year into infancy? How were they doing? Let's do a side-by-side comparison that way.
But my simplified mind, the way I would imagine is if these guys, if these executives are working in industries like publishing, right? That means you're not a cookie cutter executive, like you're an executive to serve this industry, right? Where this industry is supposed to be about quality content, it's supposed to be
I
about
think you have very,
very naive.
yeah.
Okay.
You have in an idealistic world,
Mm,
idealistic editorial setting.
right.
Yes, you have people who understand content through and through,
Mm,
and want to monetize that said content. But
mm,
the realities are, you get people who handle the business who may not necessarily come from a content background. They just
mm,
know how to monetize things
mm,
without much care or involvement into the output. They have no time. You think
mm,
if an owner of a company actually reads all the articles that's being published in your magazine or website,
mm,
then chances are you're headed in the right direction.
that's interesting. No, because the way I approach things is usually I would the only reason I would want to monetize something is so that there's 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 resources to keep doing that thing lah.
Yes.
Like that means if you have this great magazine, we should be good at monetizing it so that we can put out more great
For sure.
content.
Yep.
I mean, I would think of it like that, right? And I assume everybody thinks of it like that. But you're saying that executives don't necessarily see that, that they kind of disconnect from the creative side to the commercial side, so to speak.
So then it becomes the editor's role to sort of find that balance. Okay,
Mm,
okay, we understand your needs. We are of a client. We understand the needs of the company.
mm.
How are we going to achieve this? And at the same time, provide the readers the quality content, stuff with value that they want and deserve.
See, you have this unique perspective because you have kind of gone from established brands, print publications like FHM, Line, Newman, The Score. Okay, Newman, The Score, the younger magazine, and going from that to something like Rojak Daily, which is purely digital, right? If I'm not mistaken. How does it compare in terms of strategies, lah? In terms of how does a purely digital strategy versus a print strategy work? In terms of, do creatives have more say or less say, or everything's about
That whether it's print or digital, who has more say doesn't change.
okay?
The only thing that changes is how you are presenting your stories.
Okay, so if I were to, from an outside looking in, right, what are the markers for print versus digital? Digital, I can imagine it's the clicks, the views. Those would be the markers in terms of what are the eyeballs that we have, right? If it is print, what is it? Is advertising revenue versus circulation, or what?
Circulation. So the equivalent of reach, digital reach, would be circulation.
Okay, and in Malaysia, what's a good number for
Now I have no
okay, maybe
idea.
you
Now
go back
you have
10
like
years, like maybe you go back
500
10
circulations, so you celebrate and
That's
it's sad, right?
It's a sad reality. Like I read like Blue Ink is is no more or has shut down, right, or something like
Last
that.
I heard, it was.
And so yeah, man. I mean, it's
It's sad that print it isn't on the decline. It has
gone.
died.
Okay.
Like that phase a few years ago
Mm.
when a whole bunch of local magazines started getting cut off. That was it. That was the whole
And
massive
so
transition.
so now the new digital landscape. When I say new, it's current. The current landscape is fully digital, right? How does it change in terms of from an editorial point of view? Because at
People
least the
have
magazines
less
had like you had a month
to plan.
to plan without having any executives on your ass, because your result is the publication and then the publication gets judged, but at least you have time to run up to it, right? But with digital, I just feel every day you're putting out content, every day or most days you're putting out content, and then every content is being judged instead of as a whole. You're looking at every piece of content and suddenly
Yes, you're right. There's more scrutiny to each and every piece of content that goes up digitally now. because everything can be tracked, right? Like
Yeah.
how long people reading this article for? Are they bouncing after a while? To reach the numbers of
So
clicks.
what do they
Pressure.
what do they care about? I mean, what do the people who make the calls care about? Ultimately
Reach it.
is views versus their advertising revenue lah that comes in.
I wouldn't
And
say
does
versus.
Rojak Daily generate advertising revenue?
Yeah. So back then in print, you would have your inside back covers, outside back covers,
Right.
prime locations that, it's like when you pick FHM behind, you have Hennessy.
Yeah.
That was the prime spots and whatnot. Websites, your banners, places here and there, or branded content. So articles that have been written for a client based on whatever they want to push, whether it's a product or a campaign, launch.
That'd be like an editorial kind of.
Editorial, yes.
Okay, so in terms of, but you need to have a balance. What's the balance of editorial content versus organic content? Is there a balance?
Back then, magazines, yes, because you have the limitations of pages, space, right? Good month if you have a lot of advertisers, a lot of pages, you may have to sacrifice some content pages. That's a good problem to have. Okay. Oh, we got too many people coming in this month. Now, anyone can advertise at any time because space is not an issue online.
So the reason I'm asking is even after talking to like Richard and you as well, right? I do get a very grim view of the industry, right? So if I were to, give, you a blank slate, right?
Okay.
And to kind of, if you were to imagine what your utopia of a media landscape, or at least from a digital publishing point of view, right? How would, to say, if we are starting a magazine, online magazine, digital content platform now, what would it need to look at, and what needs to be the structure behind as a corporate structure to allow it to kind of work? What would be a utopia for that? I mean, what would that look like? Or you think it's just
so like a modern day editorial structure for like a news site or something?
Yeah. If you were to do this today and somebody were to park a lot of money with you to get it done, how would you do it? Or what needs to be done?
It really, there's no like secret formula. When I will tell you, it just all boils down to it being common sense. For example, guideline, brand book first. What is this brand? Who are you? What is the DNA? What do you stand for? Who is the target audience? Who you're reaching out to? What is the purpose? What do you want your readers to get out of it? Are you a niche? Like, are you only focusing on certain things, or is it a wider scope? Because as much as there is joy in writing or covering anything and everything, having such a wide gap in terms of lack of focus will bite you in the ass when it comes to trying to instill brand loyalty and readership. So have that thing, find your community, your people, speak their language, get the right team members, editorial team members, writers and whatnot who speak their language as well. And I think definitely now you would have to do video content, goes without saying, but which is a good thing. Like, one of the things I enjoyed transitioning from print to digital, when I joined the print industry, it was already in its early stages of digitalization. Right? So being young-ish and someone who is more savvy, I would use Facebook, I would use all those things. All the magazines that I joined, I would take the initiative to revive its digital presence. With FHM, I introduced behind-the-scene videos, web-exclusive content. When you have content with value, web-exclusive, these kind of things, you cannot... Okay, what's the point? You buy the magazine, you see the photo shoots, or the articles, the stories, the interviews, then you go online, you see the same stuff.
Right. What doesn't make sense?
There needs to be some value, right? If I didn't care, the fastest way would just to be replicate.
Yeah, and the web one was free lah, in the sense you didn't have to buy.
Also, you wouldn't have KDN breathing down your neck, because with the magazine, you're constantly under scrutiny where they're like, oh, ni tak boleh ni.
So there's a definition. I mean, there's a technical definition between print, what you're allowed to do on print versus what you're allowed to put on your website. Oh wow, they don't just blanket website also scrutinize.
I don't know whether they do now. But back then, and you got away with.
Oh man, FHM, that's a lot of room to play.
Yeah, but basically what I'm getting at is have an idea of your brand, what it is, who you're representing, who your target is.
Would you do a print publication at this point?
No,
Not worth it.
maybe not monthly for sure.
Okay.
Now, let's take MCO. Putting
Right.
MCO aside itself,
Mm.
Malaysians generally don't subscribe to magazines. I think the only thing that subscribes to is Reader's Digest, probably still going strong till today. Every household somewhere will have.
But until all our parents forget to renew their
To renew their,
subscription.
I think lifetime
Yeah.
member.
I do feel there's a space in the pockets of niche, right? In a sense that even up to this day, I still buy Top Gear, right? Like
Okay.
the magazine, right? And
Not a local one though.
the local one.
The local
I don't buy I don't like to buy the international edition only because I feel so disconnected from the content.
From the type of cars and whatnot as well.
I mean, the type of cars is there, but then the prices are in pounds, and
Yeah.
I cry every time I look at it. I'm like, that's not the price we're
Okay.
gonna end up paying. And so I like content that I feel I can relate to, right?
So you
And
still should buy this,
I still do. I mean, I have not gone out much during MCO, but
Right.
when I do spot it,
and it's
I-
available like where your popular My News,
My News,
MPH
yeah.
and whatnot.
So, but it's harder, man. Even now when I go to My News, they say they don't carry this, and I see the magazine rack is like shrinking and shrinking and shrinking. There's not much.
Circulation is low, probably they just allocate quite.
Yeah, My News is just going to rebrand to a candy shop, lah. I'm
Mhm.
telling you, because it used to be tons of magazines, papers, blah blah, and then some, confectionery stand. Right now, it's one big confectionery stand with one stand for the publication. And then you realize the
Getting
brand
smaller
is
and
My
smaller.
News is like, totally. But I feel there's because for me is I think I was mentioning to another person the other day, is for me to be able to have something in my hand, because if I'm a fan of
Right.
something, right, to have something tangible,
Yeah.
means a lot, right? The problem with digital is
It's not
it
so
gives
personal.
you no ownership, right? In the sense that if I like, this new Ferrari came out and I love this Ferrari, right? So I buy a magazine with that Ferrari. Somehow I feel I own, I don't own the Ferrari obviously, but I own a version of it in a magazine, right?
Yep.
But even if that same magazine is free online on a website that I can view anytime, there's no ownership, right?
Yeah.
It is such a disconnected. So I do feel that there's, I don't know how to figure it out, but I feel there is pockets of opportunity where,
Yeah, if done right,
Yeah.
definitely.
yeah,
And it boils down to just let the editors and writers do their thing. They know content. They know what readers would want to read, having already consumed so much content themselves.
Yeah.
So they know how to present it, how to voice it, how to present, and then people read. I really miss the whole element of, you have magazine contests and whatnot. You have edited notes, people sending letters.
yeah.
That whole thing is just almost non-existent
Yeah.
already.
But my concern actually is also, now that I have a kid, right? So I'm kind of thinking, how is this little kid going to grow up? So I kind of compare to my life as in how I was growing up. And of course, things will change, right? I mean,
For sure.
when I was, 3, 4, 5 years old, there's no internet. I think I only got internet in my teens, right? But I realized that it is not the thing, right? It's the experience, right?
Yeah.
Growing up, I could, suddenly there's a new series of dinosaur magazines that I collect every month,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
then you assemble the dinosaur and
The
all
glow in
that.
the
Right?
dark one?
Yeah, exactly.
I used to have
the
those,
T-Rex,
yeah,
right?
yes, yes.
Yeah, exactly, right. So in the sense that whatever I had at the time, there was a sense of owning and sense of like, I'm learning this, it's mine, I'm kind of growing with this. And now the new reality of digital, right? You don't own anything. In
Yeah.
fact, if anything, you just own a device, right?
Temporarily, and it doesn't
It's-
feel like
yeah,
you're-
it's like just a device, it's a phone or a tab. So suddenly there's tons of content. There's too much content, right? But how you feel towards the content is I feel like very agnostic. Like, so how do you so the question I ask myself is also, how do I make him care enough about something? So when I say, do you like cars? What does he have to show that he likes cars, right? In
Right.
terms, do you like this? Do you like music? Suddenly you don't have vinyls, you don't have magazines.
it'll
so
all
you
be
don't
there
have-
on the phone now.
Yeah,
Cars, music, everything that I like.
yeah,
is
so
here.
in the sense that in terms of content, yes, it is the most efficient, superior way of delivering content. But in terms of building emotional relationship with the content, I feel like you
Yeah.
don't care. You just simply don't care for it. You
That's
watch
true.
it, the minute you watch it, it's done.
Sad.
You don't care for it, right? So I feel there's still a tangible space, but I don't know whether people can even bother to figure it out because it's so expensive and it's seen as traditional.
One thing I really never figured out was why there's never been a proper like a music. You know, always like you have your Rolling Stones and Enemies and whatnot, great music magazines. Locally, I've always been
Galaxy,
hungry for local music content. Like, tell me the story of your Yogi Bees and Reish Monus and all this IMI Search and Aois and there's no documentation, there's no documentaries, select number of books, no publications covering these things. So much rich content there. Like our music,
Yeah.
like Tamil hip hop, for instance, is on a global scale. Like we literally put Tamil hip hop on the world map. And,
Really, yeah?
And yet no one knows these stories, and there's not much. So these are something that I've always wanted, along with like stories of other things that I want to tell. The story of Malaysian musicians, I feel, is something that just needs to be.
So I'm going to tell you something that I've actually said a couple of times, and I even said to Richard as well. I think you should start a podcast. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying it for the sake of saying it, but the fact that that world that you're describing, in terms of when you say music, I don't think Malaysian music, right? I think music, or listen to whoever it is, right? And the fact that that we as a country probably know more about the shenanigans of Kanye and Kim than what we do of our own superheroes back here, that's a problem. I mean,
it really is. And it's not like Malaysian musicians already have it easy in terms of album sales or making money as a whole. And on top of that, they put so much effort into their work, and these things go untold, unnoticed. People don't know. It's a waste. People who are in the right positions or know the right people probably have an upper hand at in terms of marketing and getting their names and songs out there. But what about the whole bunch of crazy talent?
No, I think even more than that, right, is the fact that for me, if somebody talks to me about they are interested in becoming a rapper, right, my mind goes to New York or the US, and I imagine all these guys, right, and the reality of this person here in Malaysia compared to what we see on TV and all that is so different, right? For me, it seems unachievable, right? I feel like, what are you talking about? It looks like a very unachievable dream. But the reality is, if we can connect the dots, if you're saying like if we talk enough about local musicians, the local music scene, and we kind of like build that interest and support for local content, when somebody says they want to be a rapper, and then suddenly they are drawing references to, this guy in Klang, Yogi B, I'm assuming he's from Klang, by the way. I don't know if he is. Right, but just say like, suddenly it becomes, that's half an hour ride away from me. I probably can beg him to have a coffee with me and talk. So suddenly it becomes very, not achievable, it becomes a reality like that. If I really want to go down to this world, I can, right? But we have, by not highlighting local content, we kind of made it like a pipe dream. Oh, you want to be a rock star? Like, who are you looking at? Looking at Foo Fighters? Our life's so different, people here different. Suddenly, but if you highlight our local rock stars, you realize that if you really want to, and if you're good, obviously, if you're good, then there's a world that you can build there. Yeah, and I think you should do it.
Here's your ROTTWs, right? No?
No.
Okay.
No.
Locally, I would, based on my knowledge, I'm
okay.
But as far as I know, you have a few music dedicated portals, and ROTTW is like the OG, the granddaddy of Malaysian music publications. Started off as magazine, digital, but
does it stand for something?
Rhythm of the Third World, I believe, is what yeah. But I would say it's niche.
Okay.
They're doing what they do, and they're doing their part great. And But there's also English content which is not being covered, and other vernaculars, like I said, like Tamil rap and whatnot. You have your vernacular maybe websites that may or may not cover Chinese artists and Indian songs or whatnot. But where is your one whole go-to website that covers everything local? No, like there's no boundaries lah. As if you're Malaysian and you're good, and there's a story that words to be told, tell that story.
Yeah.
So when I was now this boils down to me. Every website or magazine that I was with, there was a music segment. I loved the music segment. I would take charge of the music segment. Say, it's okay, we don't need to hire people. Like, I want to write and cover this thing. So that's when I would take my fanboy moment and go and interview people who I used to listen to their songs. Like, I know Grish Monu's song and Poetic Ammo and Dragon Red and a whole bunch of different great artists. And now I get to interview them, and it was fun. For me, it's like, I really loved it because throughout my whole time as a journalist from Lime, one of the things I did in Lime was review albums. Back then, when Sony and Universal used to send physical CDs before everyone else gets it, there was this thrill of I'm listening to something before everyone else. Listen to it, write the reviews. That was fun. Then from that, I started going into interviewing the artists themselves and whatnot. And fortunately, down the line, it came to a point where we could do videos, And I met OEG. Went to their studio to do a story. Basically, I wanted to find out about 60s TV, the song, right? And the whole thing that went to. So this was a series of, it was a video series that I started. And I
This just started under what, FHM or?
No, this was under Rojak Daily.
Okay.
And I just wanted to find out, everyone knows these songs. Everyone knows Hey Money, like Hey Wale and Money Money and all these songs from then. But who knows about what they went through to putting it together. Back then, music videos were so interesting. You had big sponsors like your Pepsis and whatnot, and you didn't have the online digital marketing tools that you have now. YouTube, Facebook, there was a lot of effort shooting it, conceptualizing it and whatnot. Now you put lyric videos so jadi, but back then, this is our single from this album, we want to make it big and whatnot. So I was curious, spoke to them about the stories. When I met OEG, I noticed there's a book on OEG. I was like, wait, someone actually wrote a book about OEG. I didn't know. I mean, I was fascinated that there was a local author who actually took the time and initiative and trouble to write a book about a local band. There must be something there. There must be some passion, or he really believed in it and he wanted to. That was the whole appeal. I told the drummer Chi of OEG, I said, I wanna.
I did not know that. So that's basically just their names, OEG spelled out. I mean,
no, it's basically a book written about the history of OEG.
Okay.
So I saw this book because I'm like I said, there's a lack of documentation on local musicians, be it in video form or books and whatnot. And I saw a book on OEG. I knew OEG. And because I traveled so much, I didn't get to live the Malaysian music scene in the 90s or 2000s. I was very much at the mercy of where I was. Suddenly I'm Sungai Petani means sorry lah. I'm playing Chongka and Wow and not listening to local music. I'm in Seychelles. I'm like, hunting some shit in the jungle. It was just so disconnected. But when I kind of came back to KL and I was here for the longest time, I started being exposed to more local musicians, whether through live bands and whatnot. And I realized that there's so much stories that were not being told or haven't been told. So I was very excited when I saw the OEG book. I said, "Can I buy this off you?" He said, "Just take." I said, "No, this is a book. I wanna buy it. Let me know how much it is." And because I didn't see it being sold anywhere. Didn't see it anywhere. Read it. It was so nice. I got transported back to the old days of Positive Tone and
Positive Tone. I remember that. Wow.
And Yogi and Too Fat and whatnot. And then I checked who wrote the book, and the author's name was a fellow FHM editor from back then.
You knew this person?
So when I was with FHM and we were being shut down, and I went through the 7 stages of grief.
This was when you were editor lah.
Yeah, basically when there was a phase when a lot of magazines were being shut down. FHM included, because FHM UK went on a hiatus. They didn't shut down. They went on a hiatus. We had the option of continuing or closing as well, but they went for that. So with FHM, you could see that the type of stories that were being told and everything were what lost my trail of thought. What were we talking about?
You're talking about, you were saying about music, OEG, the book,
Yes. So this
positive
guy,
tone.
this author,
Ah.
was also a previous
Yeah.
previous editor of
Yeah.
FHM. So I got in touch with him when I was doing the closing ceremony of FHM.
Right.
I wanted to get testimonials from all the old editors and whatnot, and he was one of it, lah.
Okay.
M. Zulkifli is his name. So I said, hey, what familiar name? So I got in touch with him. I just wanted to tell him that I really thought what he did was awesome.
Okay.
Like I said, man, I appreciated the amount of effort that you've put into
Mm.
actually going and doing the story and digging through and interviewing these people and whatnot. And it was a very fun book to read that transported me back.
Right.
And he was happy that there was that form of, that someone actually read and
Yeah.
appreciated the book and all. It was a great thing, but the launch was not as big as it should have been. And I didn't reach out to that many people.
Yeah.
But then I wanted to work with him because this guy was really passionate about local music, clearly.
Right.
If you're going to write a book, that's a lot of dedication and commitment right there. And I really respect that. And especially as someone who's always wanted to write a book, I was like, man, you just nailed it. Spoke to him. Long story short, we both share the same vision that there's a void of local content being covered in terms of, how it's being written, whether in video and article form. And so we started something.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. And basically, just to satisfy that itch of telling the stories that we want to tell,
Okay.
we now have a platform to do so. And
Would I know the platform? Is it available? Can I go?
oh, yeah, it's called gendang.com.my.
Gendang, Gendang.
Gendang, like the drum.
Drum,
Like,
okay.
yeah.
And then, so this is just pet project, 2 people.
Yeah. So because I left the industry and I was like, I still wanted to write about things that I'm passionate about.
Okay.
I could not let that go. True, I left because now I can grow in terms of learning a different side of the editorial and writing world where it's not so much for a media platform,
Okay.
but it could be, for a different setting, for a different, like a corporate company and whatnot.
Right.
But inside that itch to write about local music or just music in general, or that itch to write as a whole was still there. So I used to have a blog back then in college when I used to just do for myself,
Right.
satisfy that itch. Now I wanted to do so but on a larger scale.
Okay. So Gendang, just kind of walk me through it. It is 2 of you.
So yeah, we got together and we said, hey man,
Okay.
I want to tell stories. You want to tell stories? We know some people to get access to tell these stories, to meet these people, to conduct interviews.
Just a website, or do you all have content like videos and?
So how it started was just this, right?
Okay.
We wanted to. I'll do some articles. We have some ideas. Like I'm no longer with a publication or a website where I could translate those ideas for those. Now I don't have a platform, and it's not like there's Rolling Stones or NME locally as well, or a publication where I could submit my ideas or whatnot. It was just there. No one would care about. I felt about what I wanted to write about, besides myself. So we got together. His passion. He's really good in like film, TV, content, music. From my side, it sort of really balanced it out. Of course, music was his thing as well, but he was way more knowledgeable also about film and TV, which I have close to zilch local knowledge about.
Okay.
So we planned it out and whatnot, and then we decided to let's just do it. Like
When did you all launch Gendang?
This was earlier this year.
Wow, that's pretty recent.
Yeah, it's very recent.
And then, in the sense, I think we were talking about it even before the podcast. The idea of the Malaysian scene, entertainment scene, right? And I suppose you were mentioning earlier that music and how each music seems to be in its own vernacular, and probably English taking the biggest hit. I don't know, being the smallest of it, or I could be wrong. I'm not sure. But in terms of like even like dramas and movies and all, there seems to be this weird void, and maybe Adam, you're saying his name, or who's the other person on Gendang?
Zul, M. Zulkifli.
M. Zulkifli. Okay, so maybe Zul would be a better person, or he would know more about the movie spot. But my observation based on talking to people is that even our movie industry, our drama industry is so vernacular.
Yeah.
Right? In the sense that, we have Tamil shows or Indian shows, Tamil shows, right? And then we have Chinese speaking, and we have Malay shows. And weirdly enough, they don't seem to apply to this idea of Malaysian shows, in the sense that, the Tamil shows are always trying to show to you that you're in India, or, it's an Indian world, right? And the Chinese shows, respectively, same in the Chinese world, and the Malaysia in the Malay world. And I think I'm sure there are, but there doesn't seem to be sufficient.
You mean like your kopitiams and that kind of shows?
Uh,
Is that what you're trying?
yes, ish. But I also mean like when you think about how many movies can you think back and say it's a Malaysian movie?
Right, I got what you mean.
Right? Not so much a Malay movie, Indian movie, Chinese movie. It's unfair to characterize the language and the race, right? But then just to simplify, but the idea of being a Malaysian, I think Ola Bola came close as they were touting it as a Malaysian movie, right? So how much content of it do we have? But then even then people say, oh, there's no market for such a niche,
right?
So I feel if that's what you guys are going after, even in Gendang, where if you're able to bring this so-called different genres under this umbrella of Malaysia, as opposed to Indian rap versus Chinese, and all that, and have somewhere where if I like OG, for example, and I go to Gendang, I also get to see articles about other rappers, even if it's other languages. I get this idea, man, these are all Malaysian,
yes.
right?
Yeah.
My ignorance is such, right? If you name the top 5 Chinese celebrities or entertainers in Malaysia, I probably wouldn't know them. Yeah. I probably would, if you had told me they're from Hong Kong or from China, I wouldn't know any different. And I think that's a problem. I think as Malaysians, we should know.
We should know, because there's so much talent. Like through this thing, like it's like that, I was curious as well. So I, being English, consumer of content, for the most part, I also just steer towards those things. I have no idea how the local Chinese YouTubers are, or the rappers or the musicians, besides those who have either passed that, that boundaries of being within that vernacular and made it on a larger scale, and those who, but there's some like this guy's called 3P Production, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay. What?
3P?
3? Okay.
P.
Okay.
So through a friend because he found out that I like writing about local stuff and whatnot, so he would like introduce, have you checked this out, have you heard it? So it's nice, like that's that thing going on. I love discovering new, especially when you get blown away,
right? And
you see the video production of these guys. They're basically, I think, if I'm not mistaken, a bunch of dancers who then started a YouTube channel, and they do this songs, parodies, very humorous, satirical stuff and whatnot. Quality is insane.
Yeah. And you're right. I think I guess there are sufficient. There are people like I'm trying to think of names. Like you mentioned, what is the current version of a kopitiam? What is our 2020 version of a kopitiam? Right. So okay, let's just say there's a lot of YouTube channels, right, where there's this view of Malaysia as in there's a mix of Chinese, Malay, Indian, right? But I also feel that this English-speaking pocket of Malaysia, which probably we would fit into that pocket, right? A lot of people don't relate to that pocket, right? In the sense that when they see people speaking English, there are segments of the Indian population, Chinese population, and even the Malay population will not relate. And I think that is why even our big media conglomerates are separated by, Malay channel, marketing, Chinese channel, and I think every one of them are operating like that, right? But it will be very interesting to see if we can kind of make it inclusive instead of exclusive. I don't know how it would be done, right? But I think if Gendang is something new, and you guys don't have the shackles of corporate machinery on you guys yet, telling you all that no, you must focus on a
specific. You cannot do that, or you can talk about this, or you can now you can talk about stuff from a neutral standpoint. You can talk about the film industry as a whole. You can talk about the music industry as a whole. You can talk about radio stations across the board. Back then, if you were under this one, you can't talk about that one, whatever, So the idea was, let's do it for the readers, lah. What would you, as someone who enjoys local content, be it film, TV, radio, arts, whatever, music, what would you want to know? What should you know?
But do you think, and this is where I feel, in my idealistic view of the world, right, I see journalism as holds a lot of responsibility, right? I don't take it as, you can write, you should be a journalist, right? I feel it holds a lot of responsibility because my view of it is such that I feel now or maybe how our corporate overlords look at it, right, is that find people what they want and feed them what they want, right? It's basically saying which video has the most likes and do more of those videos equivalent of it, right? But I think journalism has a responsibility to kind of inform and educate as well, in the sense that, hey, you should also be checking out these people.
Yeah.
These, even though you're an Indian guy and this is a Chinese band and you're not interested in this, but this, check out these amazing things these Malaysians are doing, right? And doing it sufficiently so that you still give them what they want, but you also kind of inform and educate them, hey, this is other things in the genre that you should be looking at. And I feel that question is not asked enough, in the sense that it's a very arrogant way of thinking. Like, the arrogant way of thinking is, what's good for the reader. It's arrogant in the thought process, but it's also the thing that people like you and Zul who have this appreciation across a wide variety of stuff, right? So that if somebody likes this, hey, trust me, you're also gonna like this, right? Trust us, you're also gonna like this. And you kind of be the maybe bringing back the subject matter expert lah, right? To kind of tell people, look, you should be exploring these other things as well, instead of being in our little cocoon of, I only watch English YouTube videos, I only watch Chinese YouTube videos, that. And I feel like we have kind of been very polarized
that way.
Yeah, and man, I think there's a lot of opportunity lah. But I think somebody like you guys, without anybody breathing down your necks, probably you guys can pull it off lah. But if you're starting off with, if it's in a, whether it's Media Prima or Astro trying to do it, the first question they're gonna ask is, who's your target market?
And revenue projection is
no, and it's not, it's just your demographic. If your demographic is the Chinese speaking market, then it's a Chinese speaking show focused on the Chinese speaking market, and suddenly you're in a pigeonhole, right? So in terms of the idea of Malaysia, I feel it's lost lah, right? I don't know whether I'm making sense, but I
get what you mean,
right?
And I'm glad that you see it that way as well, because it is along the lines of what we just want people to discover great local talent. It doesn't matter what you are, who you are. If you're Malaysian and what you do and you create, and there's just not enough people telling your stories, we want to be the people to tell the story.
Yeah, and
we believe in it.
And even in terms of talent, right? Even if you watch, if I love to watch content, right? So like, even if you watch like even movies and Netflix or even music videos, right? Even if we see the other side of the world, the US and all that, some of the greatest mashups are from the Latin music. Mixing with rap and all that. So I think we will benefit a lot from if we can cross those borders between the languages, even in Malaysia. If we can collaborate more, there has been some, but if we can collaborate more, whether it's in acting or movies or whether it's in music, I think we only stand to gain lah. But I feel that right now it's very pigeonholed.
I'm sure that given, if the opportunity was there to have these collaborations, Malaysians would, everyone would want to go for it.
Yeah,
it's just that getting that opportunity to even go to that extent is tough, especially when you're not getting support here locally as well.
Yeah, the only painful thing, and I know I'm going to make it sound, I'm going to make a positive thing sound negative, but that's not my intention. I feel the only time we see this kind of stuff is when we want to promote multiculturalism or promote like, oh, we're not racist, or promote that, oh, we are one, right? So only when you want to do a campaign of, oh, we are Malaysia, then you start assembling all the artists from different race and religion. But it's for that one song.
So that means during August, September, that's when you get an influx.
And then what happens to the rest of our lives? Are you guys not, in the sense that I think it's great that you're doing it, but it shouldn't. The reason why a Chinese
should be authentic,
singer and an Indian rapper, the reason they collaborate shouldn't be about race, It should be about the music and their talent.
Yeah.
And I think people will enjoy it, and in the sense that if you're doing it just to get a multicultural Malaysian video,
that becomes tacky at some time.
Yeah, I mean it's painful for me to watch. It's nice. I really enjoy it. Where I think the last one I saw was many years ago. The Here in Our Home. Have you? I think Pete Theo wrote Here in Our Home, and
I see.
then and they got a lot of industry bigwigs, and also like even some of the big business guys also got in, and they did this video clip of
Nice.
diversity here in our home and all that. It was very nice, very beautiful, right? But does it translate to our real life? So I don't know, man. I would like to see more collaboration. I think it'd be cool.
Definitely.
Yeah, I don't listen enough, even Tamil music.
Look like as in locally, you mean?
Yeah, as I mean, I'm biased towards English by
Okay.
default. But I want to say my bias is by the language, but I listen to English from every continent. Lah. I mean, I listen to English songs from India, Malaysia, wherever it is, right? Uh, but also, we enjoy listening to like Despacito, right? We don't know what the hell the guy is saying. It's just the music, and I think in that sense, every Malaysian can name like two Malay and two Indian or two Chinese songs that maybe Indian not so popular, but there's a Malay song that everybody is gonna, like
Yeah.
Hujan and all that. Man, everybody knows, right? You don't even have to understand it. I just think we need more of that, and we'd be better off for it, lah.
That's true. Yeah.
I know we kind of segued. We didn't really get to talk about what you're doing right now.
Okay.
In terms of
Because this is what I'm doing right now. So I left the industry.
Mm.
I, on the one end, am working on writing, but in a different setting for
Okay.
different industries.
Okay,
And on the other
can
hand,
we share the company that you're working for? Is that
it's an online marketplace.
okay, Mudah.
Mudah.
Right? Okay, cool. Okay,
Yeah.
so I find that interesting because I think a few years ago, I spotted, I think it was an advertising campaign, but I thought it was very clever. A music video by Ultimate, right?
Okay.
And I think he was talking about Mudah, and the song was named Mudah as well. So I'm pretty sure it was an advertorial, but done very well lah, in terms it was a song. So I thought in that sense, Mudah was very progressive to kind of try out different avenues for
Yeah.
marketing, right? So you coming from the background that you have, are you trying to bring something different, or it's
Yeah. I'm trying to sort of show them how they can fully utilize me in terms of
Okay.
what I've learned
Okay.
and how they can maybe apply it to Muda, possibly without having considering that it was an option.
okay?
From as simple as a blog
Okay.
or a few other initiatives, whether it's through basically communications, anything that is being written or whatnot.
Why do you think Mudah needs that?
No, Muda's like one of the oldest,
Mm.
not an e-commerce, but a marketplace, right?
Right.
In Malaysia, it's been around
Right.
since like 2012, if I'm not
Okay.
mistaken. But throughout the years, back then, they were one of the few,
Okay.
if not the only.
Okay.
As
So
we know now.
Mudah and Lelong, and that's about it, right?
Mm.
Okay.
And then now you've got a whole bunch of
Yeah.
different other brands as well, who perhaps have a stronger, louder, younger,
Mm.
fresher voice.
Mm.
And with that comes perhaps the potential need to also, step up
Mm.
and also have and reach out to the right people, because when a brand has been around for so long, then you just assume that
Mm.
it is something old for the old people, and
Yeah.
maybe the younger gen may not necessarily see how you can properly utilize it.
Mm. How do you see Mudah? What is your view of Mudah?
I am a hoarder.
Okay.
Right. So,
Okay.
for example, like I told you, it all started like even when I was interning and I was stealing magazines in the storeroom. That has gone on for like music stuff. So whenever I
Right.
go, I'll buy magazines, these little trinkets, and all this kind of stuff. So I'm a hoarder.
Mm.
Muda is a perfect place
Okay.
for hoarders because you find literally quite anything
Mm.
on Muda,
Okay.
as long as it's not illegal.
Mm.
Collectors, you find great stuff, vinyls, records,
Right.
if you like Star Wars, heap bunch of Star Wars stuff, Batman, whatever.
Mm.
So I was thinking there's a lot of interesting content
Mm.
on top of people who are selling pre-loved stuff.
Mm.
You also have people who are crafting things, creating stuff from scratch, whether it's your carpenters or woodmen and all this kind of stuff.
Okay.
There's all that going on there. So for me, as I look from a editorial perspective,
Right.
I would write and tell these stories.
Okay.
So why not we do that on Muda's own platform?
So your idea of writing and telling these stories is, would you say, to get more sellers on your platform, or to get
more sellers and buyers?
Okay.
Because that's the unique thing about Muda, is like you can do both.
Yeah.
You buy and sell, and the things you can buy and sell, it's just quite.
Yeah. I mean, I resonate with the idea that of you being a hoarder. I'm a massive hoarder as well. But my wife has kind of put stipulations on my hoarding ability. So
hence why I'm not married.
not yet lah. Man, you will get you. They will get you. Whoever they, I don't know. They will get you, right? But in the sense that, so she kind of puts me down to reality. Like if I buy too many shoes,
Like,
you know, like sell some of your shoes
okay,
before you buy some more, because you only have, you know, how many shoes can you possibly wear, right? So
never enough. I also keep too many shoes. Fortunately, it hasn't come to the selling part.
So I actually got onto this platform. So I actually use, not to negate, I use Carousel a lot, right? And
which is also under the same company.
Oh wow, okay. But I do find this, and correct me where I'm wrong in my thing. Like I tried uploading, because at that first point I just wanted to get rid of as many things as I can, right? So I uploaded on Carousel, Facebook, and Mudah.
Okay.
Right. By far, Carousel seems to be getting a lot more,
even more than Facebook.
Yeah. A lot more than Facebook. Carousel seems to be getting a lot more interest, lah, right? Whether I actually sell it. But what I also found that Carousels, if I think as a, you know, as an entrepreneur, I think Carousel is just burning cash, lah. They're just burning tons of money because there's no real monetization, right? Whereas when I tried to do it on Mudah, at least maybe a couple of years ago, there's a lot of, you have to buy ads, you have to buy some points to promote. I think now maybe it's free. You can upload for free. I don't know.
You constantly can always post a free ad.
Okay.
But if you want to increase the visibility for the said ads, then you have a few premium services, they call it, which you can choose. So some will either bring it up, some will bring it on top of the listing, some will be more prominent positioning, those kind of little things. Yeah.
I mean, Carousel also introduced that point system. I have not bought any points in that sense. But I found the ease of Carousel. I think when they launched, one of the USPs was take a photo and put it to sale. So there's but I think Mudah, there's a bit more
steps up.
Bit more, maybe it's just their process to QC lah. But it feels like a longer process for me to sell something. Like Carousel, sometimes I will just walk around, I'm like, photo, put it for sale. And if somebody's interested, then I'll take more photos of something that I'm selling, right? So I won't even bother taking too many photos. If they want more photos, okay, there's an interest and I go take more photos, right? So in that sense, you're saying that now that you're under the same group, are they moving towards that simplicity as well?
Yes. So funny you should mention that. I mean, I guess what Mudah had or still has is the reach, the number. Right? It's insane. And then Carousel, being a newer, fresher company, has the back-end tech abilities to make the whole process really smooth.
They don't have the legacy issues of this platform,
precisely,
and the database.
So
and all that.
This whole marriage thing really works to the benefit of.
So who owns who? I mean, it's under the same umbrella, or
it's owned essentially by Telenor, which still owns DG as well. Right?
Okay.
And under Telenor, essentially there was another company in Singapore.
Okay.
And then that company merged with Carousel.
Okay.
And then now the idea is to have all these marketplaces in Southeast Asia because separately they had places like Myanmar, Vietnam, Philippines, Singapore, Hong Kong, whatever. Now together it's sort of like a more Southeast Asia thing.
Okay, so they are all, so Mudah and Carousel is part of the same group. Are there any other marketplaces in the same group?
Yeah, but they're all like in the different countries with different names. Apart from Carousel, which carries the same name around the region.
Okay, interesting. So in terms of so in terms of Mudah, but for you, you are focusing on Mudah, right? I mean, you don't.
Mudah is where I am learning to apply writing in a different setting. For example, if they're developing the app and what that kind of stuff, then I'm part of the whole UI UX experience which is great. Like I love when there's learning of new thing and applying, and there's that challenge bit because it's stuff that I used to just write whatever the hell I wanted to, interview people, whatnot, and then this is very more focused, and then you're adhering to their rules in their setting. This is our brand. This is who we appeal to. All those things, and then it sort of brings back memories of the other industry. So it's interesting in that sense.
No, I like. I always like. I thought Mudah's branding is spot on. I mean, the name, the branding, the positioning is spot on. I just struggled with the app where I felt it took a little longer than I needed.
Yeah.
But I don't know, man. I hope you can put up some interesting content to get people to come on.
So, like for example, Star Wars Day and all those kind of things. I just
Mm.
did an article on the rarest things you can find Star Wars
Mm.
related on Mudah, because I feel as a collector, I want to
Mm.
sort of appeal to all these communities and societies and whatnot, these hobbyists and collectors,
Mm.
because it's a great place for you to.
You know,
Hook up.
if I dare to suggest uh, 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 a story for you to look at
Yep.
on behalf of
Okay,
Mudah,
sure.
right, is I actually found the idea of not needing to throw stuff away very
Yeah.
satisfying. Not so much that I can sell, right? Because I give you an example. Because of my shoes, some of my shoes are very old, right? But I take care of my stuff. I wipe it down, keep it nice and all that. So some shoes are like 5 years old, but still look wearable. But I don't wear them anymore. And I would throw it away or give it away to charity, right? The problem with giving it away to charity is you never know where it's going to end up.
Yeah.
And you never know if they're going to use
Take care
size 13
or, yeah,
shoe, whether they're ever going to need it, right? So it kind of gets lost in the system. So what
size 13.
size big fella lah. so what I did was actually I started putting some of the shoes like really cheap, like 30 ringgit.
Okay.
So you wouldn't think twice to buy Under Armour shoe or an Adidas shoe for 20-30 bucks or formal shoe for 20 bucks, right? Just so that if somebody else who maybe can't afford $100 shoe, maybe they will buy a $10. It's so much better than me throwing it away,
Yeah.
right? And I realized it in the most accidental way because I was cleaning up some stuff and then I found out a lot of my old phones, my Note 1, Note 2 still works, can switch on. And I had no heart to throw it away or whatever. So I just put it up for sale lah. And there were kids coming from Banting. They drive an hour to come and buy the phone. And I was like, I just sold it for like 100, 150,
Right.
200 bucks like that. And they were like so excited to buy it. And I was like, why do you all need this so badly that you're coming from Banting? Can't you get other phones? And I realized that for them, they're looking at it from gaming, right? Saying, oh, this processor can game. Oh, you must be gaming on it all the time. Like, I've never gamed on this phone ever, right? And you realize that, if I would just to give that, I don't want to make a stereotype, but if I just were to give it to, let's say, a gardener, right? He doesn't game.
Yeah.
He doesn't need that phone. But a kid who really wants to game, who wants a phone, suddenly can find it on Mudah, right? And the fact that somebody like me don't have to throw it, I hate the idea of the wastage, right?
Yeah.
If I can give it to someone else and the thing
And
has
that
a
person's
second
gonna
lease
use it,
and it's going to be used.
And appreciate it, and that person wants it and just never had a
and
chance
I
to
was
get
like,
it. That's great.
In a way, it's like buying a second-hand car in a
Yeah,
very
yeah.
small way, right? In an ideal world, everybody buys new cars, but realistically, we all can't afford new cars, so you buy second-hand cars, right? So in the same way, I feel that even the silliest thing, I've sold things for like $5, dude. Like the most silliest things, but so now when I look at something, I just go like, can I sell it or do I want to throw it? And sell it not in a way it's profitable, right?
Yeah.
In a sense, it's just that it goes to someone who wants to use it, right? So I've even had cases where they get something and I give a few other things for free, it doesn't matter because I know you will appreciate it. And I think that I don't know whether that angle is a valuable angle to look at from promoting the platform, because even like when I see other platforms like Carousel, it's shown more on a sense of making money, making money kind of deal, right? Or how easy is it to sell.
Yep.
But I think there's something to be said about, reducing our wastage,
For sure.
It is like, reusing, I know they say recycle, reuse and all that crap, right? So it's literally reusing, but somebody else is reusing it.
By going on that thing, people won't care. Like if you're
Mm.
saying that, oh, I'm selling stuff, why don't you buy pre-loved items to save nature and ecosystem? Truth is, as much as we want to be all conscious and they're going to be like, nah, I just want something that I need or that's useful
No, but
for me.
from a buyer's point of view,
Yeah.
hopefully the yuppie urbanites who want to save the world,
okay.
who might have some cool shit, right?
Yeah.
Maybe get them to do it out of a social responsibility. I mean, buyers will only buy if they want it. So we're not worried about the buyer.
Yeah.
But in a sense
The sellers,
the sellers who are hoarding like you and me, right? Who might have some cool stuff that they might not appreciate, but somebody else might really appreciate, right? I don't know, man. I found that to be like very, very interesting. I have guys who have bought like shoes from me. They'll message me like every 6 months, they message me like, hey, do you have any other shoes that you're selling? because once they know they can get size 13 from
Yeah.
somewhere,
Especially your size.
yeah, so they're like, where do you have any more shoes you're selling, right? So in a sense, I didn't realize it. I got into it by accident. I realized that, oh, I don't have to throw,
Yeah.
and this doesn't have to end up in a garbage.
I honestly sell. No, I honestly buy more than I sell.
Mm.
I still have my phones. We're talking about non-camera phones, Nokia, I don't know what. No, I still have it. Just kept.
I had
Why?
An iPhone,
I don't know.
I had an iPhone 1 that I sold. A guy came and he bought it for me for $200. I was like, the phone switches on and just continuously restarts, right? And he was buying it for me and he was like, yeah, I wanted to buy one of these just as a collector lah. And the one in US I was selling it for like 15,000 ringgit. I looked at him, bugger, $200 and you're telling me it's worth 15,000. I was like, okay lah, it's your profit if you can sell it for 15. So in the sense that, yeah, man, I just feel the idea of being able to not look at things as throwaway.
Yeah.
One
man's trash, as they say.
Yeah, I know. I just don't like the idea of this throwing away stuff. It's just so much rubbish, man. I mean, I'm a hoarder. I buy a shoe, I keep the box, and when I sell the shoe, no, seriously, when I sell the shoe,
the same box.
It's the same box with the wrapping paper, with everything, And then they're like, "You kept it all this while?" I'm like, "Yeah, I don't throw stuff."
Yeah, I have paper bags in my house. Paper bags, plastic bags, boxes, all this. I just keep. I said in the boxes, I'll put the paper bags.
Bro,
what am I going to use paper bags for? I don't know.
So I give you a hint of the OCD that my wife has to deal with, right? When I bought my previous Samsung Note, whatever, right? When I bought it, they came with a paper bag that had the Samsung branding, that phone branding. So I kept the paper bag aside and I kept the phone, the box, everything, right? So when I decided to sell the phone, I sold to the person in the same paper bag. This is years later after buying the phone. With that phone's launch paper bag, with the box, with everything. And they were like,
you should just charge extra for that.
No, but that's just for my pleasure, right? My OCD is that, okay lah, if somebody's getting this, they're going to feel
the
like
way they should.
Yeah, they're going to feel like it's a new phone. As opposed to, charger pun tak ada. Now this is the phone, right?
Yeah,
Suddenly you feel like it is inferior. But if you give something like it's in the full
they
box,
know it's been
so that's
kept well
just my OCD lah. I mean, but that's the thing. So I feel like I don't want to throw I want it to go to someone who would also appreciate it. So I think that's where platforms like Carousel and Mudah, I'm very appreciative of it. And the fact that I tell people that you don't have to throw away your old shoes, they look at me like, what the fuck are you talking about? Really, I swear to God, I tell my friends that, they don't believe me. They don't believe me that you can sell your stuff. So that's what I mean, like stupid urbanites like us probably need to be educated.
They just think that if I'm not using it, I dispose of it.
Because we
that's
use
the end
and throw,
of its life.
We use and throw, and we happily throw it into that big recycling, reuse recycling.
And I've done my part for the environment.
Yeah. But that you don't know where that goes and whether somebody actually uses it, right? So in the sense, there may be an opportunity to educate the urbanites who might give a fuck about saving the planet, who should give a fuck about saving the planet, should I say. Buyers will always be happy lah. Okay, I think I've dragged on a bit too long. 2 hours, man.
Didn't feel like it just flew.
Yeah. Thank you very much for doing this.
No, thanks for having me. I really hoped there was something to get out of it. Just felt like a random.
And just as a precursor, I think it might be a good idea to maybe have you and maybe you and Zul together to talk a little bit more about Kendang and local content as such.
Zul would
maybe later on, but have a chat with him. I would love to see and be educated on Malaysian content, local Malaysian content. That'd be fun. Thank you very much.
Thanks, man. Thanks, Ija. Thanks for having me.
No worries.